What's going on, everybody? Welcome to LTMB Live. This is Let the Madness Begin. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Glad to be here with y'all. This is Thursday, last day in February. February 28th.
Yes, I was about to say the last day in Black History Month.
Last day of Black History Month.
And you know, it's kind of interesting. Like, I woke up today and I checked, social media and Twitter. And it wasn't really like a good feeling I got, because I was reading some things about what some teachers were forced to do because of what they chose to display on Black History Month.
Right.
And there was a lot of teachers who made like little displays. I guess I wouldn't call it a mural, but decorated their door with like a Kaepernick figure of some sort, made out of construction paper,
like a poster,
just poster decorations, with Colin Kaepernick. A lot of these schools told the teachers they had to take it down.
Right.
Take it down because it was offensive.
Yes, parents felt that it was offensive, and there was many calls about it.
I do think that says something about, like, I do think it's ironic considering it's Black History Month, and it's supposed to be centered on, recognizing people who stood up for Black people. It's supposed to be a month that's separated so people can show some sort of solidarity for certain figures that Black people chose.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, to me, it kind of illustrates that really this month doesn't mean anything.
It's about, well, look,
there's
a lot of people that can handle the truth. There's a lot of people that can handle the truth, no matter what ethnicity you are. But here and now, if you're in the here and now, divisive figures can't be tolerated. Now, then and gone,
they can do that.
Figures, they can handle them.
They can handle them because they're back. They're
back there. They don't got to deal with them right now.
It's easier to
kind of reframe them because they're dead and gone. But yeah, divisive figures in today's age, nah, you can't handle them. Maybe in about 20, 30, 50 years.
They'll be saying, yeah, we were with that Kaepernick guy.
Yeah.
It's weird because, like, in a lot of these schools, they're allowed to wear, Confederate hats and Confederate shirts. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
All right, but we are broadcasting on YouTube. We're broadcasting on Facebook. Oh, my goodness.
You keep saying that, though. You know what? And you never said that. But the last two shows you said that.
Last time, yeah.
When's the last time we even been on Facebook?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because we stopped going on Facebook like for the live show period, and then we did like a little after dark little period, just as like a more light banter.
Yeah.
And then somebody kind of ripped us off and started copying us. We're not going to say who that person is, but they started doing an after dark show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say.
But yeah, not on Facebook. So yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and we're on Periscope. Periscope Live, Periscope TV. What was it called?
I don't know what it is. I think it's just
whatever. But everybody, thank you for joining us. We do have a lot to talk about today. Also, shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon.com. Thank you for supporting us. If you would like to support this program, you can go to Patreon.com /LTMB to become a patron. All right. Let's get started off. Okay. So let's get started off. You know where we have to start. We have to start with Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, the former personal attorney of President Donald Trump, finally testified before the House, the House Oversight Committee. And again, this was long expected. It was long awaited. It kept getting put off, but finally he did testify. It lasted about 7 hours long. There was a lot of back and forth, especially between Michael Cohen and the Republicans. A lot of tense moments. Michael Cohen's opening statement. And we have some videos to show you. We don't have that particular video. His opening statement. What did you think about it? What did you think about it?
Well, like, kind of what I thought about it was illustrated within the first 15 minutes. I already knew what the Republicans would make it about. And it just seemed as if they were more worried about, like, discrediting Cohen. It seemed like they were more worried about, I guess, casting doubt on Cohen's testimony and not really asking questions to get down to the bottom or get down to the truth. You see what I'm saying? It just seemed to be a central character that went unmentioned within all of their questions.
A central character.
Yeah, central character.
Who would that be? Who was that central character that they failed to mention?
The person they nominated, the party nominated as their representative.
Trumpy.
Yeah, McDonald.
McDonald,
yes. But I was very interested in hearing what Michael Canary Cohen had to say, and hearing all the singing he was going to do.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to sit there and act as if like Cohen is this completely honest character who had this coming to Jesus moment.
No, he's not a choir boy.
He's not a choir boy. I knew what it was about. I knew exactly what it was about. There were points where he was being dishonest, but it wasn't like being dishonest about any of the details. It was being dishonest about his come to Jesus moment. Because they asked him a question about like, hey, when did you, figured you needed to come clean? Which is such a stupid question. And he said, I think Cohen said something like, oh, he witnessed all of what Trump was doing during his administration. You saw that part? I was like, dog. I was like, we know why you came clean. You came clean.
They busted into
because they busted into your office, dog. Just say that.
And they took all of these
dog,
materials.
I was like, I had to come clean. So that was just like, okay, you be a little bit more honest and accept responsibility. So the things he was dishonest about really were inconsequential if you're just talking about the receipts he brought, the materials he brought to this committee to prove his case. But
this was somebody that got caught, hands in the cookie jar way too many times. He got caught doing somebody else's bidding illegally, So I, for the most part of it, like this is a canary. He's singing just like a canary, right? So I found him to be truthful. I found him to be credible, okay? Now, of course, like you're talking about, there were certain times where it's like, yeah, you're not really telling the whole truth there. The part that I didn't like right off at the beginning was one of the parts that got a lot of press, and that was when he called Donald Trump a con man, a racist, a cheat.
Yeah.
Like, you actually could have left that out. We already know that to be factually accurate, right? Like, we already know that. Everybody already knows that. For you to actually state it, it's like you're doing way too much here. Just stick to the facts here. And I think that allows the Republicans to really, really try to attack him. Like, look, this guy is biased right here. You know what I'm saying? And that, you're exactly right. Their whole tactic, the whole entire hearing, was to attack his credibility. They did nothing else. They didn't want to mention Trump. They didn't want to get to if Trump was culpable of any dirty deeds or anything like that.
But what were they trying to prove? Like,
that he's a liar.
They're attempting to discredit Cohen as a liar and a fraud. Like, we already know that. You see what I'm saying?
Well documented, man.
I know. So it's like that's how he made his living, committing fraudulent acts.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's why he's going to jail. So like, Republicans trying to discredit him, it doesn't make any sense because we already know the things he did. Now, like the major question is who he did those things on behalf of. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because if Cohen pled guilty to crimes involving financial fraud, campaign finance fraud, which is like 8 counts, I believe he pled guilty to, then those he worked on behalf of are guilty as well.
Right.
I think it's simple as that. It's not that complicated. And for the most part, like I was actually pretty surprised, just looking at his demeanor and everything. I did not know what to expect.
Right.
I thought it was going to be someone who appeared very undone, someone who was out of sorts, but it wasn't that. Like, the tragedy about Cohen is, and I don't mean tragedy like I feel bad for him, but the tragedy in that, like, he didn't have to go this route. It was unnecessary, because just judging from his, like, his demeanor, his tone, and his presence in front of the committee, like, superficially, it looks like he could have been a legit lawyer.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Like,
he probably,
just superficially,
at one point
he probably was. So it's like
point.
he didn't even have to go this route in order to be successful. He just wanted to be.
But he wanted to be more than.
He wanted to be more successful. He wanted to be a part of, like, a power class. He wanted to be like star. He was, and he struck me as, well, struck me. He was starstruck, and I think in a way he wanted to be close to power, and not just with Trump, but all the other people he worked for.
Right.
And so, but go ahead.
Like you started off by saying, though, the Republicans, their whole mission during this hearing was to attack his credibility. We all know that he's a liar, okay? We already knew that he was deceitful. We already know that he's a criminal, and he's going to be going to jail for some time, some significant time, right? So to belabor that point is ridiculous. But again, their mission is to attack his credibility so that anything that is coming out of his mouth has to be read as false. So the two clips that well, actually, we'll just get to the first clip. The first clip is where Democratic Representative Jerry Connolly begins his 5-minute period talking about that thing that Republicans were doing, trying to attack his credibility over and over and over again.
Based on your testimony and your 10-year experience, I think you can recognize the behavior you're being subjected to on the other side of the aisle. Discredit, slander, use any trick in the book to prevent your testimony from sticking. The idea that a witness would come to us who's flawed, and you certainly are flawed, means they can never tell the truth, and there is no validity whatsoever to a single word they say, would discredit every single criminal trial of organized crime in the history of the United States, because all of them depend on someone who's turned. It would make RICO null and void. We couldn't use it anymore. This Congress historically has relied on all kinds of shady figures who turned. One of the most famous, who led to the decapitation of the organized crime families in America, Joe Valachi, congressional hearing. He was a witness, and he committed a lot worse crimes than you're convicted of, Mr. Cohen. So don't be fooled by what my friends on the other side of the aisle are trying to do today. It is do everything but focus on the principle, known as individual number one in the Southern District of New York, as I recall.
Again, the point that they're making is silly. In a court of law, before the House Oversight Committee, flawed people, people that have lied, people that have committed crimes, they testify all the time because they've turned. You caught them doing something. At least, obviously, you have some type of leverage over them, and they decide to turn state's evidence. They decide to turn and roll over and play ball. That's
common sense.
It's common sense. That happens all the time. And that's really, a lot of the times, that's how you get somebody that is rich and powerful. So the whole notion that he's not telling the truth because he's lied before, because he's committed crime before, is silly.
It's dumb. But see, again, like, I don't think they realize what they're actually admitting here, though. Like, he has committed crimes, and he is going to jail for those crimes. And so he's guilty, right? Mm-hmm. So the crimes that he committed are legit crimes.
Right.
Okay, the next step is who he committed those crimes for or on behalf of. Yeah. That's the next question.
But that's tricky.
He wasn't, do you see what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't doing those crimes on behalf of himself, was he?
But that's what they are saying, though. They're framing him to be this very ambitious guy that really wanted to promote himself. The whole line about how he wanted a spot in the White House but didn't get it. Now, that may be a lie. It may not be a lie. But that's to prove that this was an ambitious guy. And he didn't really take direction from Trump. He just wanted to do things to satisfy Trump, and maybe that will lead to a more prominent position.
He actually had a good rebuttal to that. I believe he wanted to be attorney, but not an official White House attorney, because first of all, that would have opened him up to a lot of things he wouldn't have wanted to. You see what I'm saying? He still wanted to be close to Trump in a personal and be a personal attorney, which would give him more agency than being a White House lawyer. So he did want a position, but not officially with the administration. I think he gave a good answer to that. But basically, this whole thing surrounds who he did work for. If he is guilty in the court of law and he pled guilty to federal crimes and state whatever federal crimes in federal court, then the people who he did those crimes on behalf of are guilty too. I think that's the easy line to draw here. And the Republicans attempting to castigate Cohen's credibility is drastically overshadowed by irony, as they brought him on to the Republican National Committee as finance chair, right? I forgot his official position. I think it was the deputy finance chair in 2017. So I'm not sure if it's still up on their site, but as of 3 hours ago, there was a press release on their website that highlighted additions to their financial leadership team. Now, I don't know if it's still there. It was there 3 hours ago. So I still have my phone on that website. As of yesterday, I still had the page saved just to see if they would take it down. Now, Cohen is a guy that they have called a liar, untrustworthy, and you can't be believed for anything he's saying. But they trusted him enough to put him on their finance team. Republican National Committee did that. Now, unfortunately, these dummies still haven't scrubbed that from their webpage. I'm looking at their webpage right now. I have it on my phone. This is GOP. You see it right here. Put it closer to the camera right there so you know I'm not bullshitting. This is GOP.com. It's a press release. And it says RNC announces additions to RNC financial or finance leadership team. And it says, I'm delighted to announce the addition of these longtime friends of the party and supporters of this administration to our finance leadership team, said Chairwoman McDaniel. Elliot Brody, Michael Cohen, and Louis DeJoy will serve as National Deputy Finance Chairman, and Brian Ballard, Bob Grand, and Gordon Sandlin, Jeff Verhoff, and Ron Weiser will serve as a Regional Vice Chairman. Together, this team will employ their extraordinary talent and understanding of Americans across the country to maintain and build upon our unprecedented fundraising success. And again, to show you I'm not bullshitting, you see that? That's his name right there, Michael Cohen. That's the GOP's website. They still have him on the website. So this whole doggone hearing is overshadowed by irony, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because either they are incompetent at vetting the people that they bring on to the RNC, or they are willing conspirators. It can only be those two things.
Well, this was theater. And I think we understand that. This was theater. This was somebody that they could get behind at one point. But since he is turning against a guy that they support, a guy that they have to support at this point, then they're going to make him the guy that cannot be trusted, even though they still have that information right there.
But see, that's a bigger story to me, you know what I'm saying? Like, that points to members of the GOP and not just Trump. To me, that kind of, like, lays out another narrative that it's not just about Trump. It's about more people. You know what I'm saying? We've always wondered why a lot of Republicans would put their political career in jeopardy to stand for Trump, right? We've always wondered that. Now you see that maybe defending Trump is just a proxy for defending themselves. So why they're going after people like Cohen because they could take down Trump, they're defending Trump because maybe they're defending themselves too. I don't know. It could be that.
Well, they've tied themselves to Trump. Trump is the Republican Party now. So their agenda is Trump's agenda. They can't separate it at this point. There's one other clip that we wanted to show, and that was Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez questioning Cohen.
To your knowledge, did the president ever provide inflated assets to an insurance company?
Yes.
Who else knows that the president did this?
Alan Weisselberg, Ron Lieberman, and Matthew Calamari.
And where would the committee find more information on this? Do you think we need to review his financial statements and his tax returns in order to compare them?
Yes, and you'd find it at the Trump org.
Thank you very much. To your knowledge, was the president interested in reducing his local real estate bills, tax bills?
Yes.
And how did he do that?
What you do is you deflate the value of the asset, and then you put in a request to the tax department for a deduction.
Thank you. Now, in October 2018, the New York Times revealed that, quote, President Trump participated in dubious tax schemes during the 1990s, including instances of outright fraud that greatly increased the fortune he received from his parents. It further stated from Mr. Trump, quote, he also helped formulate a strategy to undervalue his parents' real estate holdings by hundreds of millions of dollars on tax returns, sharply reducing his tax bill when those properties were transferred to him and his siblings. Mr. Cohen, do you know whether that specific report is accurate?
I don't. I wasn't there in 1990s.
Who would know the answer to those questions?
Alan Weisselberg.
And would it help for the committee to obtain federal and state tax returns from the president and his company to address that discrepancy?
I believe so.
You see, this is why we wanted to show you that clip. She asked very pertinent questions.
Back to back to back
Back to back to back. Now she went about 4 minutes. She didn't even take the whole 5 minutes to actually.
She didn't need it. She didn't need it. She was
whatsoever.
like on her. She was on her square, man.
Exactly. And all the questions were meant to prove a point here. We need to look at the financial dealings of President Donald Trump. We need to see his financial disclosure forms. We need to see his tax returns. That's what we need to do here, because it seems like President Trump has committed many violations. Probably many crimes.
Many crimes, many felonies.
Yes. So that's why we need to see them. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen it. The House Intelligence Committee hasn't seen it. The House Oversight Committee. Nobody's seen them, right? They haven't been provided yet. Now, why? This is an upstanding gentleman, right? President Donald Trump. This is a guy that made money the right way. This is a guy that is a businessman that was going to do all sorts of good things for the American people. American people trust him, right? But he won't show his tax returns. And this has been a common practice for presidential nominees going back decades. But this guy is still like, no, I'm not going to do it. So I love that she is putting it on blast here. I mean, she's putting it fully on display for everybody why it is so important for his tax returns to actually be taken a look at. Because there's probably some crimes that are going to be evidence.
Oh no, that was definitely a setup for the future. You know what I'm saying? That was a setup so that when pretty much the committee requests or I guess issues subpoenas, the House Intelligence Committee issues subpoenas for Trump's records. They will get them, right? Because they have grounds now.
They have grounds. See, what was not done during this hearing was a direct connection between Russia and Donald Trump. There wasn't like some, like there was Russian collusion that was proven. Michael Cohen went into this this instance where he saw Donald Trump Jr. Whisper to President Trump about a meeting, and I guess he concluded that was the meeting that they were talking about, the meeting that took place at Trump Tower with the Russians. But again, that part, I could care less about. That part, I don't even care about. Some people are saying, hey, this hearing really aided the Democrats' attempt to actually see if there was Russian collusion. I could care less about that. Is President Trump a criminal? Did he commit many violations?
Financial fraud.
Felony.
Does he have, is he in violation of emoluments?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Does he have financial and real estate deals that he's trying to protect? That's really all I care about. Is he financially tied in a way that compromises him? Is he officially guilty of campaign finance fraud too?
Right. And think what you want of Michael Cohen. All right. Again, he's a shady figure. He did some illegal activities for President Donald Trump and before he was president. Think what you want of him. But I think when you're talking about the things that he specifically did for Donald Trump that he's owned up to, I think that he deserves some amount of, I guess, it's reasonable that he would be telling the truth about a lot of this. People don't usually lie to the FBI, and then the FBI give them a deal based on that lie. It usually doesn't work like that. Usually if you lie to the FBI is probably going to find out about it, and they're not going to honor the deal that they struck with you. It usually does not work like that.
And usually if someone calls you a rat, someone calls you a rat, that usually means
The word rat.
the word, yes. If someone calls you a rat, specifically that word, what does that mean? When somebody's ratted another person out, what does that mean?
Well, to make a long story short, it usually means you're guilty.
It usually means you're guilty of something.
Yes.
They're ratting you out for something. You don't rat somebody out for nothing.
Rat isn't a synonym for liar.
Now, who referred to Cohen as a rat?
That was President Trump.
Okay, then. Yeah. Again, so he does a great job of punching himself in the face and giving ammunition to some of this stuff actually being true. And I made the case about Cohen's chosen path as a tragedy. Not a sympathetic tragedy, just a sad tragedy, unnecessary tragedy. I actually believe the same thing about Trump, too. I believe that's a tragedy, too. Not because I feel sad for him, because I sympathize with him. I just believe it was unnecessary because of the type of system we live in. We live in a system that caters to wealthy people, caters to the rich. You see what I'm saying? So it's set up for rich people and wealthy people to make more money, keep their money away from the government and tax havens, and accumulate more money and more power. Like legally, unfortunately, the way they do it is legal, right? So we live in a system like that. So to me, for him to be born with and inherit a golden parachute like that, and to not take advantage of a system legally to get rich is a fucking tragedy. He didn't have to do all this. You see what I'm saying? He didn't have to get involved with Russian organized crime, Russian oligarchs. He did not have to. That's the sad part about it. And I didn't read anything about his father's history that would give me the indication that his father was involved with some of these shady characters. Like his father made a lot of money in real estate, and I think he used a lot of government grants to develop properties, and that's how he made his money. And that's why Trump got into real estate. But I guess he was a failure, and I guess he failed at it.
Right.
So I just think that it's just kind of pathetic that he could not take advantage of the system we live in and had to go this route.
Like you're saying, the system is set up for wealthy individuals to constantly use the system that there is right now, that's right in place, and take advantage of it, and to build on their wealth, build on their status, build on their power. He did more than that, though. It seems to be that he did way more than that, and he actually is in violation of committing crimes. That's the part. See, there's a lot of business people that business owners, CEOs, there's a lot of them that take advantage of the system, but like you said, they take advantage of it legally.
Unfortunately,
it's still corruption.
I know, yeah.
It's still corruption. It's still shady as hell, but it is legal. Trump did way more than that, as we can see, with the emoluments clause. I mean, even while he's the president of the United States, he's doing the most. So, like I said, I think the case was made during this hearing that there does need to be a microscope on Trump. Like the Russia stuff, man, look, I'm going to leave that to Mueller, okay? I'm going to leave that to Mueller. If in the Mueller report there's something significant there that ties Trump to the Russians, then we'll take a look at it. Then everybody will assess it and be like, okay, this is either credible or it's not credible. You can make that decision at that time. But we don't have that information right now, so there's really no sense in talking about it. What we do have is reasonable suspicion that President Donald Trump and candidate Donald Trump, and before any of that, Donald Trump committed crimes. So we need to look at it.
Wire fraud,
Yes.
campaign finance violations, money laundering, anything like that. So I think that's important too. I think sometimes when we talk about this, I think people are unwilling to see that part of it because of the other stuff, because of, I guess, the apprehension and the complete denial of any Russiagate and Russia hysteria stuff. So since they've written that off, which is fine, I don't care, they write everything else off too, which to me is puzzling.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, all right, so let's move on to North Korea and the meeting.
Or as I sometimes call it, North Carolina. I don't know why I slip up like that.
All right, so President Trump and North Korea Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un met in Vietnam on Wednesday to continue their peace talks. The first meeting that they had was in April of 2018, and that was in Singapore. Many would describe that meeting as a success. I would not be included in that group of people. I would not describe it as a success, a rousing success, because I don't believe there was enough meat. I don't believe there was anything substantially done to actually categorize it as a success. There was nothing like solid. You know, there were some things. You know, oh yeah, Kim Jong-un and South Korea, they're going to continue peace talks. They're going to continue talking about denuclearization.
They gave back some
human
remains
from the Korean War to the U.S. But that was it. There was nothing there. And again, a lot of people gave President Donald Trump a lot of credit for it. We did not, especially when you consider in the months leading up to that President Donald Trump did everything that he possibly could to inflame things, to inflame this relationship or lack of relationship that we have with North Korea.
So it was almost like who was being the bigger person in this situation? It wasn't Trump. It was Un.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
At that point, it was Kim Jong-un who was being the bigger person. And I think like Donald Trump and his administration didn't do themselves any favors by inflating what came out of those talks.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because Donald Trump asserted that Kim Jong-un would get rid of his nuclear program and his nuclear arsenal based on those meetings.
Yeah. And I believe he said it was going to be immediate.
Oh, yeah. He said they were going to be immediate. And he remembers that, too. As bad sometimes as Trump gets with his memory, he remembers that. Yeah. Because after talks broke down this time, he made some sort of claim. Well, I know this stuff won't happen right away. I knew it would take time. I knew it wouldn't be immediate. I was like, that's not what you said last time.
So this meeting that they had again in Vietnam, maybe there was going to be something more done. You know, this was the second meeting. Maybe they could build on the relationship that they
established last time.
The last time. Yeah. You know, maybe something can happen. I don't know.
Yeah, true that. Like maybe an encouraging word from Dennis Rodman.
Maybe something.
Because he did issue
some more tears. Some more tears might do the job. Something like that, right?
Yo, that was hideous.
Sad.
That was hideous.
Yeah. But so on Wednesday, really all that was done between the two was exchanging pleasantries. It was like a photo op. You know, it wasn't too much done. The real negotiating was going to happen on Thursday. But before that meeting took place, we did get a look at what was expected to be a possible agreement between the United States and North Korea. And so the parameters of that proposal might have looked something like setting up liaison offices in each other's nations, a peace declaration to officially end the Korean War because it officially never ended. Also agreeing to return more remains of U.S. troops from the Korean War. And the icing on the cake, the biggest part of this proposal, or this, the biggest part of this proposed agreement would have been addressing the denuclearization. So it would have had North Korea agreeing to shut down a key nuclear facility in exchange for some sanctions being lifted on the country of North Korea. So the one particular the one particular location that the U.S. wanted to shut down was Yongbyon. And that is believed to be the only facility where North Korea can produce the plutonium for their nuclear bombs. So again, this was all, just possible. This was just like, I guess, I don't know if it was just in the air. Of course, this is what the United States wanted done. They wanted to shut down that key nuclear facility. So on Thursday, they got to negotiating, and the meeting did end a little bit early, and Trump explained later why it did. So we have some video footage of that, so we'd like to show you that here.
Basically, they wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, and we couldn't do that. They were willing to denuke a large portion of the areas that we wanted, but we couldn't give up all of the sanctions for that. So we continue to work, and we'll see, but we had to walk away from that particular suggestion. We had to walk away from that. They wanted sanctions lifted, but they weren't willing to do an area that we wanted. They were willing to give us areas, but not the ones we wanted. He has a certain vision, and it's not exactly our vision, but it's a lot closer than it was a year ago. And I think, eventually we'll get there. But for this particular visit, we decided that we had to walk, and we'll see what happens.
It's interesting, though, that they decided to walk yesterday.
Well, today.
I mean, today.
Thursday.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry. They decided to walk pretty much Thursday morning.
Right.
The day after Cohen's testimony. Maybe Trump felt he had some other matters to cater to. Just playing. I don't know that for sure.
No.
But
this was all about,
yeah,
again, he talked about he couldn't give up all of the sanctions, and especially because they didn't want to close that one particular site. And I guess he didn't specifically name it, but I'm assuming it is that Yongbyon facility.
But wasn't the overall point was to get North Korea to give up their nuclear weapons and their nuclear program, I guess?
That was the point. That was the whole point.
That's the reasons why the sanctions were placed on them in the first place, because they started developing weapons.
Right.
I don't think that the United States, along with the UN Security Council, wanted that to be the sole sticking point, because that would have looked worse. So they used other things as a pretext, like allegations of cyber warfare, allegations of money laundering, and something else. Terrorism, human rights violations. So they used that as a pretext. They didn't just use, they're developing a nuclear program. That would just look a little too heavy-handed. It would make it look like we just don't want this little country to defend itself, even though that's what it's about. Because I think even some other countries that are our allies are guilty of cyber warfare and human rights violations. That's a bunch of bullshit. But if the point of going to these talks was to get at least some movement on this, why not take that deal? Why not take the deal as some sort of incremental step? You see what I'm saying? Because if all they have is is one facility, I take that. You see what I'm saying?
Well, okay.
If the point is to dismantle it,
you
got to take certain steps to do that. I don't know. What did we go into it expecting? What did Trump go into this meeting expecting?
Denuclearization. I guess it depends on where you're coming from. Okay, if you're somebody within the Trump administration, I don't believe they trust Kim Jong-un. I don't believe they trust him. Even if they have these positive things to say about him in the media, I don't believe they trust him. So they don't want to, I guess, lift all the sanctions and then have Kim go behind their back and then just keep doing things, and keep producing their nuclear weapons. So on my side, I think it's very hypocritical for the U.S. to be like, yeah, you have to get rid of the nuclear weapons when the U.S. has such a big arsenal. That's hypocritical. Now, would I like to see North Korea be denuclearized? Yes, but I would also like to see the United States be denuclearized. I would like to see the whole world be denuclearized. I don't trust Kim Jong-un on this front either. Just like the Trump administration, I don't trust that he actually wants to denuclearize. And I don't see any reason why he would want to.
I don't see any reason why he should.
No, you look at Libya and how the United States dealt with Libya. You look at how the United States is looking like they're going to deal with Venezuela right now. You look at how we've dealt with Iran. What confidence should the country of North Korea have that we are going to honor our word and never going to come over there and start some trouble?
Maybe they learned something from the last meeting. You see what I'm saying? Because many analysts felt that all Kim Jong-un wanted was legitimacy on the world stage, and that's what he got from the first meeting between them two. He got
more of it now.
He got more of it now. And maybe the Trump administration learned from the first meeting that, okay, we can't trust Kim Jong-un. And it didn't look like Trump himself was quite clear on, I guess, which particular sanctions. Because he wasn't really detailed. He just says, we didn't get what we wanted. If he knew exactly what he was talking about, he probably would have been more specific. So there's somebody talking in his ear. So there's some kind of advising going on.
Well, Pompeo was there.
Yeah, So I think, like, first of all, it should have happened the first time. Because Pompeo, he did something different this time. Because before, he kind of like went like ahead of time. He went way ahead of time.
Well, Pompeo wasn't the Secretary.
He was CIA.
At the time.
Was he CIA at the time?
I believe so. It was
Tiller.
Yeah,
Tiller. Rex Tillerson. No, it was him who went ahead of time.
Right.
So yeah, I think they should have did that last time. Basically, Tillerson should have been there with Trump the last meeting. Yeah. More so. Have more inclusion in the negotiations.
I've heard before that sanctions were an act of war. I've heard that before.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I just like President Donald Trump is always framed as like this peaceful guy just because of these talks that he's having with Kim Jong-un. He doesn't want to lift the sanctions though in exchange for, I guess, several sites being closed down. The site that they want closed down, I guess Kim Jong-un is not relenting on that, I guess on that particular one as of yet. What happened was nothing. President Donald Trump says we'll see what happens going forward. I don't really see anything happening going forward.
Because we already know where Kim Jong-un stands right now. So we already know where he stands. So if we're not willing to give him that, then.
But see, I never really framed North Korea as the monstrous threat that the government always, the U.S. government always portrays him to be. True. Now, he could be a brutal dictator. He could be awful to his people. That's the kind of narrative that we always see in the news. I don't, of course, we aren't in North Korea, so we don't know how bad it is or if that is a lie or what. Yeah. It seems like he's probably not a good leader. I mean, I guess you could take that away from the situation. He's probably not a good leader. But is he this irrational, suicidal, maniacal figure that goes around and terrorizes other countries, kills other people, threatens other countries? I just have seen no instance of that. I've seen nuclear tests.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting, like, kind of the differing approaches that this administration has taken with North Korea and Venezuela? Yeah. Is Maduro a nuclear threat? No. Like, what is more dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. Civil unrest or a nuclear threat? Now, I'm saying civil unrest because that's what is being claimed, not because that's what it is. Right. I mean, civil unrest, like, other than, like, this contentious, coup talk stuff. But, like, what is worse? Civil unrest or a nuclear threat, right? So, if a nuclear threat is worse, how come they're not treating North Korea the same way they're treating Venezuela? Going in there and, trying to regime change.
Right.
Stage a coup. They stage a coup.
Yeah. One other thing that happened during this press conference that Donald Trump was conducting after the talks broke down with Kim Jong-un, a reporter asked about Otto Warmbier. Now, if you can remember, Otto Warmbier was I believe he was 22 years old. He was a young guy that he went to North Korea. I believe this was in 2016. And he was arrested for stealing a piece of propaganda off of a wall, I believe. He was sentenced to, I think, 15 years of hard labor. And when President Trump came in office, sometime after that, he was released. And he was sent back home, but he was in a coma. And then some time later, he did die from, his injuries that he sustained over there, whatever happened. So President Trump, around that time, had nothing but negative words to say about Kim Jong-un in North Korea, because he believed that this was done at his behest. He believed that this was intentional, that they tortured him, and this was the result, and he ended up dying for it. So today, on Thursday, though, after the meeting, he got a question about Otto Warmbier, and his language changed a little bit. Just a little bit.
I really believe something very bad happened to him, and I don't think that the top leadership knew about it. I don't believe that he would have allowed that to happen. It just wasn't to his advantage to allow that to happen. Those prisons are rough. They're rough places, and bad things happened. But I really don't believe that he was, I don't believe he knew about it. He tells me that he didn't know about it, and I will take him at his word.
It sounds like kind of the same response he gave to questions about the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Not only that, but
concerning Khashoggi.
Yeah. Not only that, but when he was in Helsinki with the Russian president, Putin.
I believe him.
I believe him. He said it very strongly, I believe, that he had nothing to do with any type of
but why
interfering in the elections.
Why do you think he would want to downplay that, though? Because he knew the talks failed. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, since the talks failed, you have to kind of downplay anything North Korea or Kim Jong-un is responsible for, because it makes the failure, seem not as bad. You see what I'm saying? Because it kind of mitigates it just a little bit in his mind. I don't think he had anything to do with it. I don't think he knew. You see what
just
I'm saying?
Because he said so? Now, look, this is not coming from a place where I know that Kim Jong-un is guilty of it. I think it's reasonable to assert that he was guilty of it and that something did happen to Otto Warmbier at the behest of the government, Kim Jong-un himself. I mean, I think it's reasonable to question that. Or to like have that kind of result in your head, like, yeah, well, look at him, he was in a coma, and that happened because of some bullshit charge in North Korea. It's pretty probably. But now that there's a relationship between Trump and Kim, now all Kim has to say is, yeah, I ain't know anything about it, and Trump is like, yeah, I believe him.
So he got his nose wide open for Kim Jong-un. So he's love struck.
And Putin. And Mohammed bin Salman. All they got to do is say the word. All they got to do is say the word. Trump's right there to believe him.
But see, bin Salman, didn't he let Trump get close to the orb, though, didn't he? Remember, he let Trump get close to the orb.
He did.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, man.
Yeah, he's a bit naive.
He's
a bit naive. Yeah, like. I think no doubt that Democrats will use this as proof of his ineptitude. You know what I'm saying? Even though they're whack in their own right, they'd be right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because Trump, in every step, this being one of them, makes it a habit to dunk on himself.
Yeah.
Dunk on himself and score in the wrong basket. So what he does, he shoots himself in the foot. And then he gives the opposition the ammunition to score a political point. So he's scoring the points for them. So I don't know, man. Like, we heard some people say after Trump's first meeting with Kim Jong-un that we shouldn't be cheering the failure of it. Remember all that? Remember all that talk? You shouldn't cheer for it to fail because, people's lives are at stake. This is serious. I don't think we were cheering for his failure. I think we were ridiculing his tactics. You see what I'm saying? Because I think he relies on those particular gestures of love, and those antics to get deals done. Antics that work at rallies, antics that work, let's say, on reality television shows like The Apprentice, but they don't work when it comes to striking a deal with an authoritarian dictator concerning denuclearization. They just don't work. So,
all right. So let's move on there. All right, a right-wing advocacy group, I said a white wing.
What'd you say?
I said a white wing.
Well, that's another Freudian there, man.
All right, a right-wing advocacy group is launching a $2.9 million ad campaign to argue against the idea of Medicare negotiating prescription drug costs. You'll love the name of this organization, too. You'll love it. It's called the American Action Network. It's always got those type of names, those kind of patriotic names that drums up support. American Action Network.
Oh, or true that, like the Freedom Foundation.
But anyway, this campaign is calling on specific GOP lawmakers to not join with Democrats, to stay strong and not join with these Democrats that are trying to allow Medicare to negotiate prices. So, as I'm reading this article, I'm thinking to myself, this is a bit heartless. This is a bit evil. Because as we know, if Medicare can negotiate prices, those prices are going to come down, right? It's currently not the case. Medicare can't negotiate prices. So that's how you have prices for like insulin and different, life-saving types of medications that people need. They skyrocket thousands of percentage, 100, 500%, 1,000%. People are dying because they can't get that medication, right? So there's every reason to allow Medicare to do it. This group is trying to push back on that narrative. So again, as I'm reading it, I'm feeling this is very evil, this is very heartless. But I'm also wondering to myself, like, how are they actually going to sell that message? How are they going to sell that message? So then I took a look at the mail ad. So this is what the mail ad looks like, okay? So you can see that it says government interference will hurt seniors' choices in Medicare Part D. And on that right side of this printout, this mail ad, you see the figures Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi. Now, in right-wing spaces, this automatically drums up opposition. You just put their faces on anything, and you can get some support for whatever you're trying to sell.
Whatever narrative you're trying to push,
yes,
it's automatically like true and has value.
You might as well substitute their faces out for the words bad for the country, horrible people. That's exactly what they're trying to project here. And so then we have another image from this printout, and it says liberals plan restrict access to medicines. Liberal politicians claim government negotiation will improve Medicare Part D. What that all really means for your benefit is restrictions on access to medicines, government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, higher premiums. And then there's also a quote from Douglas Heltz Eakin. And he says the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has consistently stated that government negotiations with drug companies will significantly restrict seniors' access to medicine. And then on the other side, all the good things about not having Medicare, negotiate prices. There's even a quote from Dan Constant, who is American Action Network's president. And he said in a statement, liberal politicians are pushing harder than ever to bring government bureaucrats between seniors and their doctors with plans that will restrict access to medicines and the Medicare Part D program. We encourage seniors to call their members of Congress and tell them to keep fighting bureaucratic interference in Medicare Part D. The word that popped out to me when I'm reading that is the word bureaucratic.
Me too.
That word just jumps out at me because they're trying to make the case that Medicare negotiating prices is going to be bad for seniors. It's going to get in between you and your doctor. You don't want this bureaucratic interference. Medicare is a government program. It is bureaucratic.
It's by definition is a bureaucracy. That's all it means.
That's exactly what it is. So how do you not allow bureaucrats
to change a bureaucratic process?
That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
What I got from this was low prices equals restricted access.
Low prices.
Low prices equals bureaucratic. And negotiations equal restrictions. So somebody's negotiating lower prices on your behalf, and that equals restrictions. That equals you having less access and it being harder to get drugs. And somebody's negotiating for you. But they're very slick because technically someone is trying to get in between you and these drug companies. Yes, that is true. There is a bureaucracy, well, a small bureaucracy, trying to get in between drug companies and those who need medication. That is actually that is true. They're trying to get in between that. But the motive for trying to get in between that is to provide lower cost drugs to those people, not get in between it so that the access becomes like harder.
Yes, that's exactly right, man. Again, Medicare is a government program. You would need bureaucracy to do anything about it. And Medicare is not going to be choosing which prescription drugs are going to be covered or not. That's the job of your health insurance company. The way it stands right now, that's because every health insurance company has a formula. Not every formula is alike. I've seen many of these formulas. Not everyone is alike. There's some drugs on this formula that are not on this formula. Medicare is only going to be, the whole goal here is for Medicare to negotiate prices so that the drug prices are reduced. Not to say, you know what, this really helps people, this keep people alive. No, we're not going to do that. This one right here, oh, this is cancer saving? Oh no, we don't want to do that. No, that's not the case.
So where's the real bureaucracy here, Will? What are you trying to say? Where's the real bureaucracy in the negative sense?
In the negative sense?
In the connotation that is trying to be illustrated here. In this kind of GOP hit job. In the context of their context of bureaucracy, even though it's really a benign word.
It would be from the Republicans.
Not just that, but it would be from the insurance companies.
Yeah, it would be from
the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies.
Right. And it seems like the Republicans have their back.
Yes. Of course.
Which is interesting because you remember what we always heard about the ACA, right? Oh, the Democrats, you know, they're in the pockets of the health insurance company. This is a good deal for the health insurance company. Now, we don't deny that.
Yeah.
We don't deny that because the ACA did nothing really to change the game up whatsoever. It did, the pre-existing conditions. That was. It was very good. I won't say it was a game changer, but it was a very good aspect of the ACA. But it did not change the system.
Yeah. It allowed people to stay on their parents' insurance for a little bit longer.
Yeah. It didn't change the system though. It seems like both parties are guilty of the same exact thing, and that same exact thing is that they don't actually want the citizenry to actually have affordable health care. That's what it seems like to me. The not the entirety, but most for the most part, the entirety of our Congress, the Senate, the House, they're not interested in actually reducing drug costs, health insurance costs. They're just not into it. On this flyer right here, the quote that I read from Douglas Eakin. Again, he was the former director of the Congressional Budget Office. And it's billed as, he was the former director of the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. He's a Republican. He worked on John McCain's presidential campaign in 2008. This isn't somebody that has nonpartisan ideas. This isn't a nonpartisan flyer. This is a flyer to preserve the system that we have right now and keep seniors paying absorbent costs for their medications. Absorbent.
Well, when you kind of apply a capitalistic standard to something like healthcare, this is what you get. I just don't think we can apply the capitalistic model to something like providing healthcare to people. It ends up becoming nihilistic in the end because health involves people's lives and people's livelihood and whether people live or die. So when you kind of apply a capitalistic standard to something like this, it ends up being like this. So at what point does it become sadistic? Because we talk about...
I think we're already there.
True. Because we talk about the moneyed interest and we talk about how there's strings attached to these people, these representatives, strings that lead back to insurance companies, strings that lead back to big pharma. So at what point does it become something that they're doing that's sadistic and not just because there's moneyed interest? Is that those two things, are those two things automatically tied? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because they are kind of running these campaigns and kind of putting these narratives out on behalf of big business, big pharma, and the insurance industry. Does it automatically make them sadistic simply because they're doing it?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
I think so.
Because they don't care about people's well-being and
No.
health. So regardless
This
of
is a
whether
complete lie.
regardless of whether the original sentiment is sadism or not,
Right.
it ends up going to that place.
It has to.
Okay.
It has to. Again, what they're selling are complete lies. Complete and utter evil lies. That's it. You can't say it any other way. Medicare, we want Medicare in this system right now. We want Medicare to negotiate prices so that those prices are lowered. We don't want Medicare saying that, you know what, this drug right here, we're not going to allow it in the United States anymore. You know what, this drug right here, it saves life. We're not going to let. No, none of that is true. I can believe that they're doing it, but like, it's evil. That's it.
But see, they have to do it, I guess, with the guys that they're looking out for people. They have to do it like that.
They have to, but it's a complete lie. All right. Former Maine Governor Paul LePage is concerned with efforts to dismantle the Electoral College and believes it would lead to obstruction. You know what? Let me start over, man, because I feel myself about to laugh. Man.
Yo, see, the reason probably why he's about to laugh is because we covered this dude before.
Yeah, man.
We'll go ahead and
right.
do the intro, and then we'll maybe give a little back history.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So former Maine Governor Paul LePage is concerned with efforts to dismantle the Electoral College. He believes it will lead to obstructing the voices of white people.
All right.
I wish I was joking.
This is Onion, right? Onion article?
Nah, man, this is real. This is real. He actually, on Tuesday, LePage was speaking on Maine radio station WVOM. And he said, well, here we go. Actually, what would happen if they do what they say they're doing? What would happen if they do what they say they're going to do? White people will not have anything to say. It's only going to be the minorities that would elect. It would be California, Texas, Florida.
Now, to kind of like let everyone know that this is not something out of left field with him. Mm-hmm. We just do a little bit of history on LePage. When I guess there was some sort of conversation going on about drugs in his state, about heroin, heroin addiction.
Yeah.
He blamed the problem on out-of-state people bringing it in.
Uh-huh.
All right. Not just people.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't just people.
But specific people. Who did he blame Maine's heroin problem on? Not just people coming in from out of state, but certain people. Who did he blame that on?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
He blamed that on black people.
Yeah.
He said 97% of Maine's...
He was specific?
He was specific. 97% of Maine's heroin epidemic was brought on by out-of-staters, specifically black out-of-staters. And he said these guys come in with names like D-Money, Shifty, and Smoothie. See, it's coming back now.
Yeah, I remember this.
Now. He also added, as a result of this influx of narcotic Negroes, that, quote, half of the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave. Now we have another issue to be dealt with down the road. So again, that's kind of a little brief history.
That's the guy.
That's the guy we're dealing with, just to let people know that this is not out of left field. Right. You know what I'm saying?
So if we're dealing with the current issue right here, again, he's defending the Electoral College. He thinks it's going to limit the voices of white people. He's very interested in the voices of white people. Now, he listed those 3 states. He listed California, Florida, New York. Now, those are 3 very populous states, right? And they do have, you would say large minority populations. Now, New York and Florida, we can just go ahead and toss that out, because in New York and Florida, the ethnic group that is the largest, and it's not even close, is non-Hispanic white. It's not even close. It's not even close. Okay. Now in California, the largest ethnic group is it is either Hispanic or Latino. But the group that falls right under that is non-Hispanic white, and it's very close. In California, it's very close. It's very close to the Hispanic and Latino. Also, to keep in mind in California, the whites, well, the white population that includes Hispanic whites is over 70% of the population. So these are people that do consider themselves to be white. This is ridiculous. When you get rid of an electoral college, you would have one vote for one person, and that would be it. That's exactly what it would, I guess, transition to. It would be one vote, one person. So to say that these particular states would control everything is absolutely absurd. You know what would control everything? Votes, not states. If you live in a dark red state like we do live in South Carolina, that means that my vote would actually count. My vote would actually count because it would be about the total number of votes for a candidate. As it stands right now, I never vote for the Republican. In a presidential race, I never vote for the Republican. I never have. So does my vote count? It absolutely does not. So am I disenfranchised? A little bit, you would say, wouldn't you? But these white people, yeah, he said white people, right? These white people in these smaller populations, he's really concerned about them.
Think about that. He's worried about them being forgotten, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, he gave some bad examples, but, you know, if we're talking about people being forgotten, you look at red states, the 5 states that are worse off as far as health and financial well-being are red states, and they're full of white people. So they're already being forgotten now.
They
Do
are.
you see what I'm saying?
They are.
But like, what I think, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what place he's coming from, but it sounds like he's coming from, no, I'm serious, I mean, he's racist, but like, where is his fear coming from? Because he's worried about white people being forgotten because of demographic changes, which tells me he thinks that, like, somehow there's going to be some sort of reverse, racism, some sort of reverse oppression, reverse discrimination. But that would only be there because he has that attitude himself. He's kind of guilty of that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So why is he worried about white people, like, becoming a minority? Why would he be worried about that? Are, minorities treated bad or something? Because that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
But he's not going to admit that, though. He's not going to admit that.
No, but you know what? But it's funny though. Like, I am mad at him because he could be telling the truth. He could be telling the truth and letting the cat out of the bag. You know what I'm saying? And kind of exposing the truth to why the Electoral College was there in the first place, and that's to consolidate power and only give us, give power to a certain subset of people. You see what I'm saying? So technically, he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth. It's just for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying?
There's another quote by him. He said, all the small states like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Wyoming, Montana, Rhode Island, you'll never see a presidential candidate again. You'll never see anybody at the national stage come to our state. We're going to be forgotten people. It's an insane process. So he's okay. So he's concerned about white people. He's concerned about becoming a forgotten people. All these small states won't even register on the map anymore. Now this is silly. Again, this whole narrative is silly. Now you could say that right now, presidential candidates, do they spend more time in larger populated areas or smaller populated areas? I would argue that they spend their time in larger populated areas. But right now, we're in 2019 and we're right in the mix of election season, right? It's getting underway right now. Where are most of the candidates at?
Not only where they at, like, let's think about like what state is seen as like the litmus test.
Yeah.
In the primaries. What state is that?
It's Iowa.
The heart of America.
Right. And then after that, it's New Hampshire. These are small states, especially when you're talking about New Hampshire. These are small states. So in election season, presidential election season, these candidates will still have to go to these smaller states because there's still going to be caucuses and primaries in these states. So they can't be forgotten unless they just want to be like, oh, well, I don't care about that state. But nobody does that. They're not going to be forgotten. The rationale behind defending the Electoral College has always been nonsensical to me. It's not like the people of Maine or the people of New Hampshire or the people of Vermont are like a different type of people. Like, they're the greens. And these mugs over here, they're the purples. And all the way over here, these are the reds over here. They're people. They're humans. A lot of people that are in Iowa feel the same way about political issues as people in California, Texas, and damn New Jersey, Washington, and Nebraska. There's people all over that have very common ideas. It doesn't matter where you live. So it's not like they're going to be forgotten or like their needs aren't going to be addressed in the larger scope of things because of them living in a smaller state.
I think you're getting somewhere. You just made sense of it all. So by making sense of it all, you make his apprehension not make sense, or not make sense on the surface.
Not on the surface.
On the surface. So we have to get down to the bottom of what he's actually talking about when it comes to their needs not being met. What is he actually talking about? I honestly don't think he does. I don't think he's done enough kind of internal examination to know exactly what he's talking about, because just judging from all the things he said, not just this, but from the other stuff he said too, about the drugs, it doesn't seem like he's I don't know, living in a conscious reality here. Because even when they asked him about the drug shit, they asked him to prove his point, and he couldn't bring him anything that he couldn't bring. I forgot who asked for it. Yeah, they couldn't bring him. So, but he still maintained his position. In this case, like, what is his actual position? He's saying that their needs won't be met, but what specific needs is he talking about? I don't even think he's talking about needs. He's talking about status. He's talking about some perception of superiority. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about like relinquishing like this, I guess this facade of control, as it has to do with white people, like, I guess, not having the same amount of power. It has nothing to do with their needs being met. The needs he's talking about is the need to feel like he is superior. The need to feel like they need people like him, people who look like him should be ruling over people. That's what will be lost. That's what he means by, be forgotten about. Yeah,
it would have to be deeper than what he's saying, because again, the United States of America, the population is majority white. The population in America is majority non-Hispanic white. In most of the states in this country, the populations of these states are non-Hispanic white. So I'm pretty sure that going forward, even if the Electoral College was torn up and we actually just went to the popular vote, are white voices still going to be continue to be heard? Yeah. In a big way. Just as big as they are right now. But again, like you said, it got to be deeper.
Definitely.
All right. Let's go to, let's go to another individual with some questionable ideas.
This time it's somebody with a D beside their name.
Yeah.
Dealt with a Republican, now let's deal with the Democrat.
To keep it fair.
Yeah, to keep it fair.
Just to be fair about it. All right, so Ann Lisanti is a Maryland Democratic state lawmaker in the House of Delegates. Several weeks ago in January, Lisanti was out at a cigar bar and discussed campaigning with a colleague. She complained that door knocking in Prince George's County could be better described as door knocking in the, quote, nigger district.
With the hard R?
With the hard R, the nigger, the nigger district, okay? So, just to point it out, Ann Lisanti is white. Just to point it out, all right? She is a white person. So Prince George's County is about 65% black, while the district that she represents, which is Hartford, is about 80% white. Now, the good news is that she apologized. Very good, very good. I'm like, you can't imagine how glad I was to hear that she apologized.
All right, but I need to know, not just that, that she apologized. I need to know kind of the details she offered.
Okay, well, let's get into part of her statement.
I need to know, like what were her explanations? Then I can judge whether this apology is legit.
Okay, well, let's begin with what she said, all right? So she said, I am sickened that a word that is not in my vocabulary came out of my mouth. It does not represent my belief system, my life's work, or what is my heart.
If you said it, by definition, it's in your vocabulary.
You're being a little harsh, man.
It's in your...
You didn't feel that she was being genuine?
If it's something you said, then it's in your vocabulary.
Damn, I thought she was being genuine, man.
I mean, is there anything more? She had to say some more, like...
She did say some more. She did. You want me to get into what else she said?
Go ahead, dog. Go ahead. Just hit me, dog. Just hit me.
All right. So, she added in her statement. oh, my bad. I actually went to the wrong thing. She added, I understand that the use of inappropriate and insensitive language is not acceptable under any circumstance. I am sorry for the hurt I have caused and will do everything I can to help heal that pain and regain the trust of my colleagues and constituents. I pray for forgiveness. So she's praying for forgiveness. She's trying to make the case that, man, first of all, this is not in her language. This is not her character at all. And she hopes that everybody can forgive her. And she hopes that this is just me adding words into her statement, but I believe she would hope that we all can learn something from this, from this instance, and grow together as one. That's all she missed, actually. That's all she missed in her statement.
Maybe we should apply the Cory Booker standard when dealing with her, and show her some courageous empathy.
Courageous, and put yourself in her shoes.
Yes, exactly. Put myself in her shoes. You see what I'm saying?
So look,
go ahead.
I understand that she understands that she made an egregious decision in saying what she said. But let's do something, all right? Let's not categorize it as a mistake. This was not a mistake. A mistake is when you do something and it wasn't something that you consciously did.
You slip on a banana peel.
You slip on a banana peel, you hit your arm on the table, something like that. That was a mistake. This was a decision. This was a choice. So I would believe that somebody that you could consider grown folk, all right? You would consider her grown folk. This is a woman that is 51 years old.
51 years old.
I would think that she understands what the word nigger is. And I would think that she understands how to use the word nigger as well. So if she understands this, then that means that she made the decision to use the word and convey a particular type of something about black people.
Oh, there you go right there. Because I do think, I'm glad you said that, because it's trivial to deal with it as like, oh, she said a bad word. Because that's just trivial to me.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people do in these situations. So it's not that she said a bad word, it's that what the usage of the word implies about maybe an attitude or a mindset or a view. Mm-hmm. And obviously, these views she hasn't kind of publicly articulated, but it seems to me that there are some sentiments that she hasn't, I guess, internally recognized or consciously recognized. And that kind of came out in that moment. Mm-hmm. And kind of that lack of recognition and internal disconnect displayed itself or illustrated itself in her rationale in offering an explanation, because she offered a very interesting false equivalency in comparing the word nigger to the F word. She says, I've said the F word. And I've said the Lord's name in vain. And I'm just like, I was like, did she just say that?
That's a bad explanation.
That's a bad explanation because, like, the F word doesn't directly implicate, like, a viewpoint towards a specific group of people.
Yeah.
Neither does using the Lord's name in vain. So that tells me she still doesn't even understand herself. And she still doesn't understand, like, why a word like that would come out in that moment. So it's not about the word. It's about what the word implies about her and her viewpoints. And she doesn't see, like, the bigger picture and all that.
When you use a word like that, I think that describes your inner feelings about black people as a whole. And to use the word to describe a whole
District.
a whole county.
A
a whole county full of black people, right? Now again, it's majority black, right? The whole county, of course, is not black, but it's a majority black district, right? It's a majority black county. So that says to me that it doesn't matter the black person. It doesn't matter at all. Like, actually, nothing matters. I think we talked about this on the show before. Actually, a few times we talked about this on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like the type of black person matters to a lot of different white people. Let's say a black person is sagging their pants versus wearing a suit. Two type of individuals, right? We're sagging pants, wearing a suit, right? Let's say you compare somebody that is very loud and shouting compared to somebody that speaks very softly, very gently, right? Let's say you compare somebody that is mean mugging all the time compared to somebody that is smiling all the time. Compare a rich black person to a poor black person. I think what this shows me is that none of that matters. If you have a darker pigmentation, if the hue of your skin is just a little bit dark, then to a lot of white people, it doesn't matter whatsoever. You're a nigger. And that's it. I think that's what describes this person right here. That she chose to use the language. Again, it wasn't a mistake. She knew how to use the word. She knew what the word was. She knew the context to use the word in, and she said it. She described a whole county full of black people. Now, to prove my point a little bit better, right? The particular county that she's talking about, Prince George's County, is one of the most affluent black counties in the nation. So again, it doesn't matter what the type of black person is. I think I've heard from white people before what a nigger was in comparison to what a black person was.
And it was all very superficial stuff.
Yes.
But, like, I guess history tells us that that's a bunch of bullshit because those black individuals that were getting sprayed with water hoses during the height of the civil rights movement were wearing church clothes.
Exactly.
Or what you would call church clothes, like slacks and nice button-up shirts and stuff like that. So that's always been an excuse that the dominant culture has used to oppress or to view certain people a certain way. Oh, it's just those people who dress that way. It's not all of you. That's just how they rationalize it, and I'm kind of used to that. But I just, like, there are many of her fellow Democrats that are calling for her to step down.
Yes, they are.
Because I think they understand, like, what this means. You know what I'm saying? Now, even if it's some small slip up, it kind of like shows that she doesn't regard a certain segment of the population with respect. And if you can't respect your constituency, can you serve your constituency or a constituency? You see what I'm saying? That's my question. You know,
well, she is a representative of a 80% white district.
Oh, that's right. My bad. It's my bad. So it's not actually her constituency. Right. But, like, if she can't regard certain people at a certain value level, do you think that, you know, if came time to, I guess, do something, I wouldn't say for them, but there's something that included them, like, how would she approach that? would she work in their best interest?
If she views them to be niggers, I don't believe
Or
there's reason to suggest that she
I
would.
think that would definitely affect how she approaches certain issues that involve those people.
Yeah.
Even if they're not like specifically, she's not representing them, but she's going to have to deal with them.
Yeah.
You
If
know
you're
what I'm saying?
comfortable with using the word and describing all of that county's black people as niggers, then yeah, you probably don't need to work in government representing anybody. So yeah, there are calls for her to resign. She hasn't heeded those calls yet. She hasn't resigned. She did resign, or she did step down as the chair of the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee on the House Economic Matters Committee. And this was done after a meeting with House Speaker Michael Bush. So I guess she's felt some of the punishment or, whatever following this making its way around the media. But the ultimate move would be for her to step down. I don't know if that she's. I don't know if she's gonna do that. Or
Yeah, again, based on her explanations, it doesn't even sound like she kind of understands like herself at all. Like, again, if she would have apologized and I don't know, done it in your way, like how you filled in the blanks.
Yeah.
You filled in what she should have said, and she didn't say all those other things. Like, I've said the F word, and I've used the Lord's name in vain, and
she didn't make excuses.
And she didn't make excuses. I may have a different position, but it
wouldn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all.
Okay. I may not have a different position, but like the details of that position may be a little different.
Maybe.
I wouldn't I would still be like, man, like she really kind of shocked herself with her own words.
Yeah.
She shocked herself because sometimes like there's certain things you didn't realize about yourself until a moment comes. But she didn't have to say this. It's not like she was put in a position and then all of a sudden it just like slipped out. It was like she kind of initiated all this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that gives me the indication that she is not fully recovered from a lot of her racist sentiments. Even if it's not blatant, she still hasn't decolonized her mind as a white person. And since she doesn't recognize it and not aware of it, and probably not aware of it until this moment, maybe the same thing is happening here that is happening or that has happened with some of these Martin Luther Coon slip-ups. You see what I'm saying? Because she's treating it like, oh, what did I do?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You
said like that's how she's treating. She's like,
that's how she's
what did I
treating
do? So but maybe the same thing is happening that happened with those Martin Luther Coon slip-ups. Maybe, cause see, if we deal with it psychologically, that's boring. That's boring. So see, if we deal with it psychologically, which that's what it is, it's boring. So it has to be some sort of supernatural or some sort of paranormal stuff going on, dog. Same thing with the Coon Fairy. It's got to be like a nigger angel just going around and just randomly touching white people and making them say nigger.
I remember being in I remember 7th grade, right? And you remember NBA Jam?
Yeah.
I remember being at the arcade playing that game, and my mom came to pick me up, right? And she was standing right beside me, right? And you know how we get when we playing video games, right? I mean, you get intense. You get intense, right? Yeah. So I remember it was towards the end of the game. Something obviously happened that I was not happy about. And I was like, shit! All out loud. Mom's is right there. Mom's is right there. My hands are on the joystick. And I'm like...
Yo, dog.
And I just slowly look over there. I'm like... I'm like, sorry. And she's like...
Yeah.
And I just kept never spoke about it again. But see, that's some type of stuff that it was a mistake, but it was only a mistake because I had used that language before.
You had used that language before, or it was already in there. It was a part of your vocabulary. It's not like you had like Tourette's syndrome.
No, it was not a mistake. Because I mean, it was a mistake in that I didn't mean to do it in
right
front of
then.
my mom.
Yeah.
But I had said shit by that time many times, and that was choice.
You just did
I put it in my own vocabulary.
And you did a good job of suppressing it
Exactly.
and not releasing that vocabulary in particular moments. And I too did the same thing. Yo, that's why that story got to me, dog. Like when you were telling it, I was like, Oh, cause, yo, for real, man. Cause I know exactly what that feels like. Cause that's happened to me too when I was younger. I was like, oh crap, did they hear that? Oh damn, you know. But
those are somewhat of mistakes, but again, the choice that you made to put it inside your own vocabulary, that was the choice. So, was it a mistake? No, I still don't think it was a mistake that it came out, because
it was just a mistake of when you used it.
Because, like,
that
again,
was the mistake.
It wasn't something that was an utterance. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't something that was like, oh, it just popped out, you know, because of something that happened. You were telling a story about door knocking, and you were telling a story about how you hate door knocking in that particular district, and you categorized it as the nigger district. That's not a mistake. You meant to categorize it as that.
Yeah, so it wasn't just like you were, you know, going over your favorite macaroni and cheese recipe. It didn't come out when she was like, I don't know, talking about her, just like her day. It wasn't like she was like, oh, and it just came out.
Nah, like, oh, nigger.
Yeah.
Why'd I do that? Stupid.
Nobody, it's like you don't shoot a jump shot and then go in and just yell, yeah, nigga. You know, you don't do that. So it's like, it doesn't even fit in this situation. And see, the only time whether it's like, I don't like to like establish some sort of parameters around it, but it's like you said, she's 50 something.
She's 51.
She's 51. Like, I'm willing to bet she does not listen to rap music. I'm willing to bet she does not touch it.
True.
I'm willing to bet she, because that's a way sometimes it can kind of like get in there without people knowing. It can get in there without people knowing.
But the hard ER?
True that. Again, that's what I'm saying. The hard ER ain't getting in there.
No.
And it's not like she said it without like there a context involved. Right. I think the context included with that usage says something. It's not like she just like kind of like blurted it out while she was ordering, you know, a number 5 at McDonald's.
Yeah, it was specific to what she was talking about.
Yeah, it was specific, yeah.
All right. So we want to talk a little bit about the issue of reparations, okay? Because we've talked about it a few times, and the last time that we talked about it was because of Senator Bernie Sanders and the town hall that he had on CNN on Monday. He was asked a question about that. So we definitely talked about it, and you know, I had some criticism of what he said. You know, it was
his delivery,
the delivery of actually what he said, and actually the specific reference point that he made that is not reparations.
Whose bill did he reference?
It was Jim Clyburn's, the 10-20-30 bill, which again, that's not race specific. That's not about reparations whatsoever. So again, there are many different ideas about reparations. There's many thoughts about it. It's always something that is controversial, although I don't think it should be. But anyway, that's my opinion. I saw an article, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, but I saw an article earlier today, and it was on salon.com. And I wanted to show you the the title of it. For anybody that saw our coverage of what Bernie Sanders had to say about reparations, or saw the CNN town hall when he answered that question, I want to know how you feel about this title.
We played that clip in its entirety.
We did.
We did not like edit it. It wasn't cut. We played it in its entirety. That entire engagement between Wolf Blitzer, well, from the question to Wolf Blitzer's engagement with Bernie Sanders in regards to the question, all that triangle of engagement.
Right. And this was the title of an article that was written by Igor Dersh. Igor Dersh. Bernie Sanders dismisses Kamala Harris's and Elizabeth Warren's calls for slavery reparations. Again, as Mike just told you, we didn't cut the video. We dealt with the entire segment, that line of questioning and Bernie Sanders' responses. He didn't dismiss anything. So why would this author pen an article that suggests that he did? That's wow. I didn't look at any other articles that this particular individual has written, but I am very interested now. if that was your takeaway from what Bernie Sanders said, then I feel you're doing a little bit too much here. I feel like there's an agenda.
You're either bad. He's either bad of observing, certain situations, or he's completely fabricating something.
Oh,
he's living in a different reality, so it's got to be one of the two.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how he got that out of that exchange. Number one, it was Wolf Blitzer who brought up Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Julian Castro.
That's correct.
Because the questions surrounding reparations, and they had made statements on reparations. All Bernie Sanders did was ask, what do they mean? I don't even think he specified what person. Maybe he did. But he asked Wolf Blitzer, what do they mean by reparations?
That's correct.
I'm not sure if he even specifically said a name, but that's all he did. He said, what do they mean by reparations? What do they mean?
Yep.
And then Wolf Blitzer told him. And then that's when Bernie Sanders was like, well, that's kind of what I just said.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So if you're taking away from it that he dismisses the idea, that's factually incorrect. Now, look, I went on to say that, look, Bernie Sanders, if he does support the idea of redress because of the institution of slavery, then just go and accept the term reparations and then explain exactly what you mean. Because these other candidates, Harris, Warren, and Castro, they have all welcomed that word reparations, but they are not specific whatsoever about what they mean. So it's just like they're trying to gain a little bit of support because they do agree with it, or they agree with it on the surface. But when it comes into effect, when it comes to what are you going to do about it, I don't think they have any ideas, because if they did, they would have shared them.
Check this out. The reason why those other candidates felt the need to do that is because they're trying to gain ground on Bernie Sanders.
Cut him off on the left.
Not just cut him off on the left, particularly because, see, reparations are about a specific group of people.
Yeah.
So they're trying to cut him off somewhere else. You see what I'm saying? Because there's this narrative that Bernie Sanders doesn't have support from black people. But if that were true, I don't think those other candidates would feel the need to kind of go that far. You see what I'm saying? Because actually they haven't gone far. They've said the word, but really they've just expressed sentiments about kind of, demographically targeted initiatives that are not really a new conversation. Yeah. So they're just using the word reparations, which is kind of not lexicon that's typically used in politics, especially during a political campaign. But really they're expressing sentiments about the demographic targeting that is pretty typical. So it's kind of disingenuous. So I think they're just trying to cut Bernie off. Not just on the left, they're trying to cut Bernie off in regard to
a specific group of people.
Yes, that's why they're doing it, because they know Bernie has the lead on that. If Bernie didn't have the lead, I don't think they would feel the need to do that.
So there's another article that we were routed to on Twitter. Somebody had mentioned us in this article, and I took a look at the article, and it was written by Megan McArdle, and she writes for the Washington Post. Now, I've looked at other articles that she has written. Now, she is not a progressive. To even consider her to be a liberal it could be a stretch. I'm not even sure. If you look at some of the other articles, man, she's just making cases where it's like, wow, are you even a centrist here? I guarantee she would consider herself a liberal, but whatever. Anyway, the article that she wrote in the Washington Post was titled, "Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren are wrong. We shouldn't pay reparations for slavery." So there's a section I wanted to highlight here. She says, "Slavery was a great moral wrong, but its primary victims are now dead and cannot be given recompense. Their descendants still live, of course, but how do you justify taking money to pay them from the descendants of immigrants who arrived long after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery?" Now, if you lead with nonsense like that, then there's no way that you could actually make the case for reparations. She said that, how are you going to take money out of the hands of descendants of immigrants and pay reparations towards the descendants of slavery?
Where is she getting that from, as far as somehow the source of the payments? Where is she getting that from?
I don't know. she's setting up this world where, or this nation, where if we actually do agree for reparations for slavery, then I guess somebody would have to go around collecting money from everybody that was not involved in slavery. Their descendants, or well, their ancestors were not involved with slavery at all or anything. Actually, no. I'm sorry. I got it wrong.
Immigrants.
No. Everybody in the country would have to pay something towards the descendants of slavery. So I don't know if it's $1,000. I don't know if it's $2,000. I don't know if you got to put this on credit or something like that. Everybody would have to offer something up for the descendants of slavery. Has anybody proposed that?
I don't think so. So maybe her analysis is based on a straw man. That's what it sounds like.
I don't understand where she's getting this.
I don't know.
But then later on in the article, this was towards the end of the article, she kind of she took it somewhere else though, and it really doesn't make sense with the other part of the article, with most of the article. But she says the one thing that can unequivocally be said in favor of reparations is that at least they would constitute a formal apology, the only kind of apology that could even begin to approach the scale of the original wrong. Saying that you're going to apologize by allowing African Americans to sign up for your universal child care program, along with everybody else, trivializes one of the most monumental injustices in American history. Along the way, it also erodes the common bond that should entitle African Americans to far more than they have ever gotten, simply because these are Americans, and this is America, and we can do better. So I don't know how that fits in with the title of her article.
She just said it like that it would be a gesture or an apology. So yeah. What do you...
I don't know. But
how would you interpret, like, just for like hypothetical sake, just for sake of argument, how would you interpret reparations? Would you take it as an apology? Would you take it as that way? What would truly be an apology for you? Because obviously I think everybody is going to have kind of a different perception and kind of receive this topic in a different way. Like what personally, like how,
well, see, this is one thing, okay? An apology means nothing to me.
Right.
Because the apology would have to come from the people that were actually involved.
Right.
Not the descendants of people that were involved.
Mm-hmm.
So the apology from you means nothing. You may not be anything like your ancestors. So again, an apology means nothing. And for a formality or something like that, okay, some people will be like, oh, they formally apologize, that's something. But that means absolutely nothing to me. I want everybody to understand that reparations, I don't believe them to be a punishment for white people, okay? It's not a punishment for white people. And another way that I think about reparations is not only looking at the institution of slavery. That's not all that I look at. I look at the aftermath as well. So a lot of people we'll talk about that this nation was built on free labor of slaves, right? And that's absolutely true. We didn't get, the black people back in that period of time did not receive any compensation for the labor that they put into building this country. So I understand the aspect of, yes, something needs to be done to redress that situation. Totally. But I talk about the aftermath as well, because in the aftermath of slavery, black people were prevented from growing wealth in this country. Black people were prevented from owning land in this country. Black people were prevented from the economic status that white people had for many, many, many years. And that's how this economic, the economic inequality between the races has continued to grow and fester throughout all the years. So it's not just that when I talk about reparations, I'm talking about doing something because free labor, people did not get their compensation for the free labor. I'm talking about what happened afterwards as well. That's where I'm coming from. So I want to do something economically to widen that racial disparity gap. That's what I want to do. The black unemployment rate is about double the rate of white unemployment. Wealth in this country between the races is ridiculous.
Oh, I see where you're going. So
you understand?
So you're not just talking about some sort of like one-time monetary giveaway. You're talking about an entire a system overhaul that may involve demographically targeted initiatives.
Yes. I'm not talking about
some sort of like, hey, here, black people, take this check.
No, see,
hell no. No. See,
I'm not talking about here's $1,000.
So
here's
basically,
$20,000.
So basically,
I'm not talking about that whatsoever.
So basically, like, kind of just like what I said last show. It's not just about reparations, but repowerations.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Where the balance of power actually changes.
Yes.
Well, it wouldn't mean anything if the balance of power didn't change. If multinational corporations still exploited third world countries, reparations don't mean anything.
To a larger degree.
To a larger degree.
Yeah.
The balance of power has to include all modes and all means of production being put in the hands of the laborers. But I wouldn't say back in the hands of the laborers, because I'm trying to think of a time when it was.
Right.
But I think it would have to include that. Reparations without that, to me, is a non-starter. Is a non-starter. I don't know. I just don't think it's like it would be an actual good thing if just freaking checks were handed out.
No.
Because I think that actually would. I think if they did do it, it would be purposely done in order to like shut people up.
Yeah.
It'd be done to shut people up.
And I think it would be really meaningless, man.
It'd be meaningless.
Again, it would, yeah, I mean, you definitely would improve some people's circumstances. Who knows how long that would last, you know? We want something that is going to actually change the system up. I want something done about the black employment rate and how it's double the white unemployment rate. I want something done about that. I want something done about black education. I want something done about black businesses. That's what I want. I wanted something done about black communities because, again, because of the aftermath of slavery, hoods and ghettos were purposely set up. And those communities still exist today. And money isn't going into those communities today. That's what I want something done about. The hell with a few $1,000s, the hell with $100,000. If you can do something to transform the system so that a black person has the same footing as a white person, please do that instead. I don't care about enriching myself on that front. Hell no. I can do something else. I can make my own way, okay? But it would be a lot easier if you actually transform the system so that you could help everybody along the way. Okay?
I just think that it would, like, the motives would definitely be malevolent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You look, I'm telling you, look at these communities. And again, I'm supportive of doing something about poverty across the nation. We have said that many, many times. We said that the last time we talked about reparations. We said that last time we talked about that 10, 20, 30 bill. It does address poverty. Cool. But when you're talking about reparations, which is something that I do believe in, I think it does need to be targeted to black Americans because they have been disenfranchised for hundreds of years.
You know, if you look at the flip side to inheriting kind of a disenfranchised status, it kind of mirrors the inheritance of a privileged status. 60 to 60, I think it's like the last time I checked, it was like 60% of wealth is inherited. If we can acknowledge that, which means acknowledging that there are individuals who are born with a certain amount of status and a certain amount of privilege that automatically gives them opportunities that most people don't have, how can we not see it on the flip side? How can we not see it the other way around? If 60% of wealth is inherited, wouldn't that mean that much or more of lack of wealth and lack of opportunities inherited as well? You see what I'm saying? How do you not see it on the flip side? How can we not acknowledge that on the flip side? Because we can talk about people getting out of those conditions, because there are many stories about people getting out of certain conditions. But unfortunately, a lot of those people have to be extraordinary.
They do.
And so this is more about probability. You see what I'm saying? And the probability of people getting out of certain circumstances, regardless of how they look, is very slim, especially if the situation is very dire and desperate.
Right.
It's very slim. And I just don't like the idea of pointing to these extraordinary cases, because it's not about an impossibility, it's about probability. And if we don't have a system that it kind of increases the probability of people getting out of situations, well, first of all,
they wouldn't be
in the situation. Right. Exactly. Why do they in the situations in the first place?
Why are they even coming up in that situation?
I think that's the bigger question. Why are they even in those situations in the first place? So it's like by pointing to it, you're actually giving kind of credit to the problems we bring up. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Without even knowing you're doing. Well, look at this person. This person came out of this whatever, this bad situation, this poor urban environment. I was like, what? So shouldn't that mean you address that environment?
Those are the people that are forgotten people. LePage.
Yeah.
LePage. Those are the people that are the forgotten people. Those are the communities that aren't being addressed whatsoever. Those are the communities that there are no business opportunities in. So what do? A lot of people, enter the life of crime, start, slinging some drugs and stuff like that.
You ever wonder what type of mindset you would have if you would have come up in a different environment? I think most people do that in some cases.
You are a product of your environment.
Yeah, so it's like, I wonder, I never like to project my mindset, the mindset I had in the environment that I grew up with or grew up in, onto other people and ask, like, why didn't they have my mindset? You know how like arrogant that would be of me?
That is arrogant.
You see what I'm saying? Because like I feel like I'm just lucky because I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't deserve anything. And so I think I would have had a different outlook on life if I didn't grow up, if I grew up in a different environment. Mm-hmm. And I do think like you internalize your environment from a very, very, very young age. I mean, from the age you start to form your identity, you start to internalize that environment. And so that does kind of influence like how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your environment, how you feel about your personal viability to, I guess, contribute to society. I may, have had a different mindset if I grew up in some of the environments that my family grew up in, some of my cousins, I may have.
It's very probable.
It's very probable. You know what I'm saying?
The bad news is that it's likely that this is actually not going to be addressed in a significant way for many, many years, if ever. Bernie Sanders is talking about it. There are several Democratic presidential candidates that are talking about it. I believe really the only one that has a real method forward, a real plan, a clear plan, is Marianne Williamson. She's the only one that is really specific about it. But again, I don't see that this is going to become like a significant issue on the campaign trail for 2020 that determines who's going to become the Democratic presidential nominee. And I don't believe that enough people that live here, voters that live here, are interested in actually discussing this issue in a meaningful way either. And not just, and look, I'm not talking about just white people. I'm talking about black people too. So a few weeks ago, was it a few weeks ago? I guess it was a few weekends ago. I was watching the NBA All-Star game. Okay. And at halftime, or was it before the game? I believe that, no, it was before the game. I'm sorry. So before the game, they always do the performance of the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
And so you remember last year it was Fergie and she busted it up real good. She busted it up.
We haven't forgot about that.
You can't forget that. But anyway, this year in Charlotte, North Carolina, the performer was Anthony Hamilton. And so I listened to it, something that I don't do anymore. But I listened to this one. And he did a bang-up job, man. It was a terrific performance. He made it his own. He took some liberties, but it played well. It was very, very good, right? And so after that, I'm just, I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm just thinking to myself, right? Everybody's clapping, he got, terrific reviews about it, this and that, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, if we are really celebrating this, if we are seriously still comfortable with the Star Spangled Banner, then we're ignoring reality. And we continue to ignore reality every single time that song is played. So if we put ourselves in a position to where we're comfortable with something that does not, as black people too, specifically black people, if we're comfortable with something that does not represent us, something that is actually offensive to us, then how can we actually expect like real change to happen for us? How can the whole country, including everybody, how can we expect transformative change, radical change? How can we ever actually progress towards a new future if we turn a blind eye to things that are very offensive and do not represent all of the United States people? The Star Spangled Banner was wrote in 1814. It was during the War of 1812. It was written by Francis Scott Key. We've talked about this several times. The reason why he wrote it was he was watching the British attack Fort McHenry. At dawn, he saw the American flag still waving. And so I guess that summed up, the idea for writing some type of poem or something like that. It has four stanzas, I believe. The first stanza is the Star Spangled Banner. The other stanzas were lost in time, I guess. I mean, you can still look them up. But when you look at the rest of it, especially that fourth stanza, you will see that it's not representative of black people, for sure. It's definitely not representative of black people. It's very offensive to black people. See, back in that time, there were runaway slaves that actually joined the British Army. And they were fighting against the United States of America because they were promised their freedom. Because, in 1812, 1814, black people were still shackled, beaten, murdered, sold. So they wanted their freedom, so they joined the British Army.
So is the kind of dismissing or the relinquishing use of the other stanzas not enough for you? You see what I'm saying? Okay.
It's not, because
you can't take.
No, I can't just take a piece of it. I just can't take a piece of it, and I have to think about the character of the individual that actually wrote it. So Francis Scott Key is somebody that owned slaves. Now, he did sell his slaves, or he, I don't know, he sold them, whatever. He didn't have slaves at some point, and this was before the ending of slavery, right? Now, some people will say, hey, well, he got rid of the slaves. He argued on behalf of slave owners in cases of runaway slaves. Runaway slaves, yeah. What else? He described black people as an inferior race. This is the dude that wrote the Star Spangled Banner. This is the song that we all as a country are comfortable with this being our national anthem. This is our national anthem from this guy who wrote about this thing. And the particular line I'm talking about in that fourth stanza, how does it go? No refuge could save the hireling and slave. People are comfortable with this. People just turn a blind eye to this. I don't understand. I love Anthony Hamilton. I think he's a tremendous artist. Mm-hmm. Tremendous. I think he has a beautiful voice.
Right. People
loved his performance, and I thought it was good too.
But but obviously, that ceremony is not held prior to sporting events because of who is singing it.
Right.
Right?
No.
So that ceremony is held before sporting events because of the song.
Because of the song.
So it really doesn't matter who sings it. And
anybody can make it beautiful.
Anybody can make it
Anybody
can make it sound beautiful. So yeah, I think you're right. It's one of those kind of traditions that may cause people to internalize certain sentiments about the United States that kind of may hinder their ability to view the United States objectively. I think that's just one thing. Mm-hmm. I think there's a whole array of things you can point to.
There's many things.
And I think probably the number one thing people do without even thinking about it or recognizing it is constantly referencing the forefathers. We want to go back to the vision of the forefathers.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? As some sort of reference point to how we should proceed with in this current government. They always reference the forefathers.
The upstanding gentlemen built this country.
That built this country. And I think that is a very, I don't know, an origin story that's really not accurate. I think that's like we kind of value that origin story for more than what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not that rosy. They did not want a lot of people to have the right to vote, even probably a third of white men. They didn't want the inclusion of anybody other than landowners and wealthy people to have any say in the government. That just didn't include, like, you know, black people and women. That included even a third of white men. And so their attitude towards governing was always based on, I guess, privileges for the affluent. From the onset. Think about, like, who has the time to go to the damn Continental Congress? For how long? Were they there for like 4 months or some shit? Who has the time to do that? Not working people, not people who were laboring. You see what I'm saying? Laborers and workers and people who actually do the work don't have time to do that. You know what I'm saying? Wealthy people and affluent and rich people have 4 months to go to the Continental Congress and try to write out something about forming a more perfect union, which it wasn't. It was a negotiation. It was a negotiation for them to give up power they didn't want to give up. And at every step, they always were resistant to giving up that power. That is kind of the narrative of the forefathers. They wanted power. First of all, they funded this independent adventure from over there. That's how they funded this shit, through loans and shit from overseas. So this wasn't about truly getting away from this sort of authoritarian, aristocratic boot that was on their neck. That's the origin story. They wanted to, like, start their own little, like, you know,
boot on the neck.
Yeah, they wanted to do that for themselves. So it's like when people believe in that origin story about, like, the founding fathers, like, wanting every man to be free and kind of to be seen equally. Nah, that's bullshit. And if people still believe in that, then how far can we go as far as, like, progressing into a different, you know, a different era?
And that's what I'm talking about. If we're not honest about the past history, you know, if we're not honest about what America was and what America is, how can we actually move forward? If we continuously just put on these blinders to things that are uncomfortable truths, how can we actually ever move forward? We know that the history is ugly, right? We know that slavery was ugly. We know the aftermath was ugly. We know the lynching was ugly. We know the Jim Crow laws were ugly. We know the segregation was ugly. We know all of these. Like, there are so many ugly aspects to the history of the United States of America, right? But people today will use time as a way of saying that we don't need to address it. You know, we live in 2019. We're so many years past that. You know, we're free now. Everybody's free now. There's no more slavery. You have the same opportunity as I do. That's not real. That's not real. You are turning a blind eye to many parts of this country that are still severely affected by slavery and the remnants of slavery. Severely affected by it. So that's what I want. Again, I don't want to enrich specific black people or individual black people. I want some transformative change in the system that will allow black wealth to rise the same way as white wealth. That's what I want. I want black children to have the same opportunity to learn and go to school, go to a quality school as white people. That's what I want. I want black businesses to be afforded the opportunity to grow the same way white businesses are afforded the opportunity to grow. That's what I want. We can't do, at this point, we can't do too much about wealth. Not to a large degree at this point. We can't do too much about land ownership.
That's because that's inherited.
That's inherited, and when did that start?
Yeah, and I know, the wealth is accumulated.
Exactly.
You know
can't do too much about that. But you can do something that would spark some significant change. And so that's what I want. When I talk about reparations and I talk about supporting the idea of it, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not just only talking about the American descendants of slavery either. I'm talking about black people in general, because black people has been disenfranchised for generations. All right. I just had to get that out, man. I had to get that out.
You have a lot on your chest, dog.
I had to get that out, man. Again, I know a lot of people agree with that idea, but I know a lot of people push back on it. I know a lot of people will continue to push back on it. Most of this country will continue to push back on the idea of reparations. Most of the country. I'm still going to talk about it, and I hope others do too. Do I think it's going to become a significant issue on the way to 2020? I do not. I think it's in the news right now. I do not believe it's going to be a significant issue. I wish it would, but I don't believe it will be. If you can still watch the Star Spangled Banner and revel at the performance, I don't think there's any way that something significant is going to be done on the reparation front. All right, so that's the show. We're going to open this up for callers. I know we're running a little bit long, but yeah, we're going to open this up for callers. We would love to hear from you. I think that is the wrong graphic. That is the wrong graphic. But anyway, the number to call in is 669-900-6833. Look at that, I remembered it. See, it wasn't even on the screen. See? 669-900-6833. Look at that. It's in there now. Now it's in there.
You want extra water for that? You want extra water?
No, I got mine.
Okay, because that's your version.
That's my cookie.
That's your cookie. I was about to say that'll be your cookie.
I got it now. But yeah, if you would like to call in, if you have something to say, we would love to have you on, get your perspective on the show. Let's set this up so that we can accept the call.
Yo, I tell you what, it's harder to pay attention to comments now, I will say. There's more comments scrolling. We used to be able to kind of like focus on certain comments and maybe respond to them, maybe respond to certain things that are being said. But I would say it's hard to do that now because there's more people in here.
Yeah, they go by faster. Huh?
Yeah, it go by faster. Like I've been trying to like moderate some of the stuff. Some of it has been moderated based on settings, but I had to kind of free up some comments because it caught some.
I saw some people talking about trolls, and of course that's gonna be.
And sometimes it's hard to tell who the trolls are because sometimes trolls have the same dumbass views as real people. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes those views are actually real, and some people retain, like, they actually have those views, so it's weird.
All right, so we got our first caller. It's coming from the 319 area code. Caller, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Snork Y2K in Oldwine, Iowa.
What's going on, Snork?
Mr. Snork, what's happening, man? What's happening?
Well, I believe just the fact that we give reparations to Israel still for turning the boat away from Jewish children from Germany right before World War II, that it kind of gives some significance to at least the American Indians and the blacks should get something. And it should be at least the amount we pay them. I mean, that's reasonable, isn't it? That's based on a precedent. And on the future, I'm more worried about anything else is that we have to do it in a way that doesn't cause more damage. And what I'm really worried about is we have somebody that is for reparation in for 4 or 8 years, followed by somebody who undoes it and undoes more than we did to correct it.
Right, okay.
And I'm just seeing that really, and we have to remember to go back and look at history and correct our statements so that when we are making statements, our errors do not lead to weapons for them to use against us. The first is the 40 acres and a mule is incorrect. The 40 acres was correct, and it was supposed to be 40 acres of floodlands because they really gave them, of the people they actually did give land to, they really gave them crappy land. The mule came from an order to the soldiers that were supposed to protect them, and they were told, let them use your mules. Now, the original 40 acres was also supposed to be a loan. until they could build up enough money to buy their own. And that gets confused. But things that get confused get used as weapons later in a court case or in congressional bills. So when things are built, I think it's more important to go on the Israeli reparations precedent rather than going on the 40 acres and a mule. And there's still one island of people that are living on the land, and there's only like 8 or 9 people left because climate change is ruining their island. It's almost not livable anymore. The next issues I had was I've worked in industries at pretty high levels at some large corporations, and I really had to work hard when I found a candidate for a job who happened to be black. I had to go through so much extra scrutiny to get them hired. I had to prove that they were good because we would be told that we've already met our quota on protective groups. And that was the term used back then. So they felt that, we filled quotas to meet our numbers, and any of those that performed bad became the excuse for not hiring anybody else. So when we tried to hire somebody who was black, we'd be presented with, our protected groups are full. And so I see that, for me, that there was such a backlash with affirmative action. People that think that it's helping don't realize how it's hurting quietly in the background. And, I shouldn't have had to go through extra layers to say, when I found somebody that I felt was a good candidate, because I really researched my people well, that I don't think I should have had to go for more justification of one person versus another. And again, my fears are so much that just like, in the last election, we had a lot of people talking about repealing the 13th and 14th Amendments. And we have to realize if we're going to play this poker game, that some heavy cards are going to get laid on the table. And before we say anything, everything has to be so well researched to make sure we're not laying something on the table that we don't want to lose.
Right.
And again, I've worked in multiple countries. I've worked in countries where everybody is treated well, has health care and everything. I've worked in countries where some of the people die on the line and they consider it okay. And it is so much more comfortable working where everybody feels like they're included. It's more productive. Wonderful things happen when everybody feels like they're included. So when you're taking care, yes, I did. I did know nice Nazis. I don't want to bore you guys with another stories, but yes, my den mother, when I was a Cub Scout, was a Nazi when she was a child. They were required to be Nazis, where their family would be shot, and that's how she stated what was in it. Of course, she was again a child. I joined Cub Scouts. Many of my Cub Scouts in my group went missing, and one of the Cub Scout leaders was later found to be a cannibal who'd eaten over 30 kids. So I consider maybe my being in the Scouts just as bad as her being in the Hitler Youth. But back to it. What are we doing? What cases? A lot of black people that did do the farms were doing very well. And this is a case similar to the Black Wall Street, that these farmers were doing very well. And there was a depression right around the change of the previous century, the 1900s. And right after that, the blacks pretty much were forced into bad deals to lose all their land. And that's another one that doesn't get spoken about. So those of you out there who are researchers and can go out and find the different evidence and look through it, or fight for that, go through the evidence, find it. Because evidence doesn't need to be spoken by one person. It needs to be verified and spoken about by many people. So there are no straw men. When we lay cards on the table, we don't lose them.
Okay.
Or is that bad analogy?
Well, some of the first points you were making about us doing, if we're going to do something, especially if we do something about reparations, it has to be something that can't just be undone and then be undone to where we're in a worse situation. I totally agree with that. I'm not going to present my case as if I know exactly what needs to be done here. I don't have the policy all written out. I haven't talked to many others about it, so I don't know exactly what it should look like, what it presumably is going to look like if the United States ever actually does it. But I have an idea of where actual funds should be allocated, and that should be in the system to help black business grow and help educate black youth, help black communities as well. There's one aspect of it that we're seeing on the chat about the funding or reparations to Jewish people.
Yeah, because Snork mentioned that Jews got reparations. I'm not sure if Snork actually said the United States was involved in that reparations agreement or process, but
Germany did.
Germany did. Germany had to. I think that's what matters in a larger scheme of things. I don't think the United States being involved matters, but I'm not sure Snork said that. I think, and I know, yeah, Snork is Snork. Like, yeah, I'm not sure if Snork made that statement, but he is right. So there was somebody in the chat, Snork, that was pushing back on that claim, and it said something about the United States does not pay Jews, and actually, if you actually look up on state government's website, the U.S. Department of State's website, Diplomacy in Action, yes, they do. It says, we are pleased to announce that the Department of State will soon be making additional payments to individuals with approved claims under the U.S.-France agreement on compensation for certain victims of Holocaust-related deportation from France who are not covered by French program. The Office of the Special Envoy for Holocaust Issues, established in 1999, develops and implements U.S. policy to return Holocaust-era assets to their rightful owners, secure compensation for Nazi-era wrongs, and ensure that the Holocaust is remembered and commemorated appropriately. The offices supports the U.S. government interest in a Europe committed to democracy, pluralism, human rights, and tolerance. So I can go on, but Jill, you're wrong according to the U.S. Department of State, and Snork was actually accurate, whether he said it or not. So.
All right, Snork, we would love to continue with you, but we do have some other calls that we just have to take.
Fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you calling in, though, Snork. All right, so we're going to get to the next call. I believe that was
U.S. Department of State, Jill. U.S. Department of State. Go look it up for yourself. Sorry, my bad.
So the next caller is coming from the 858 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hi, my name is Nate. I'm a black Marxist, and I was listening to what you were saying about reparations, and
right.
I was just wondering. I was like really vibing with it, and like the idea of like changing like something fundamental and making it so that it's very difficult to undo. And so I just wanted to run this by you. Like, this is like an argument that I've made to some of my family, in that, and I just want to see what you think about it, about like having like the way to get reparations. And I also don't think that this will happen like in the 2020 elections, but the way to get like a lasting reparations is through some kind of socialism. And I don't mean like Bernie Sanders democratic socialism, but like seize the means of production and cooperatize the economy, nationalize large segments, paired with like a lot of like investment into disadvantaged communities. And I just wanted to see what you thought about that.
I think, well, any idea of reparations, any agreement on that will come, I think, long before socialism comes. I think there will be significant, and there will always be significant pushback to socialism.
Right. There's been historic pushback against socialism, not just domestically, but as far as how the United States, I guess, organizes and implements its foreign policy. Mm-hmm. Like most, if not all, the nations that we tend to target are communist or socialist in nature. That's why we target them. So yeah, there's a long history of kind of socialism being stamped out. But yeah, I do tend to agree with Will that socialism requires an entire I guess a overhaul of capitalism, a total systematic change, which
we would need. I believe there would have to be like a cataclysmic event.
Yeah, like people going like going to the I don't know, like some guillotine type shit.
Yeah.
Like it would have to involve not just
it'd be
like
something very dramatic.
Very dramatic, and a lot of people, being held to the fire, feet being held to the fire.
Because the promotion of this system is, I mean, it's passed down through generations. I mean, people just learn that this is the system we come up with and this is the best system. Lies are told about the system, but it's strong in its place. To actually undo that, cataclysmic event. That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, part of the reason I think that, though, is just, like, historically, like, looking at it, racism seems to be a very great, an excellent defense mechanism for capitalism. And I say this a lot. Being a leftist, like, making a leftist argument is hard, because when you have, like, an economic downturn, traditional, like, leftist Marxist analysis is, well, you have this class of people that profits and benefits off of making like lowering wages and raising rents, and then you have another group of people that have to work and they want lower rents and higher wages and more time off, and like these two things are opposed to each other. And being right wing, it's actually kind of genius in a kind of a sick way, because all you have to do to be right wing when something like that happens, oh look, it's the black people and the brown people that are kind of making your life worse. And I think that it deserves to kind of split the working class, and that's why unions have always been really like a big part of fighting things like systemic racism and whatnot, because it brings working class people together. When you see, the black guy and the Hispanic lady and, the Asian dude on the picket line with you, you kind of realize that you're kind of in this fight together. But if you can if the ruling class can kind of like start dividing up the working class, it's a very powerful distraction. And so that's like kind of where I'm jumping off, in that in order to get some of these things, I personally feel like it's going to require like some kind of like working class solidarity. With capitalism there, I think that capitalism is a system that is fundamentally built on inequality, and racism is also a system built on inequality, and it's a good one for distracting working people. And it's hard for me, I guess, to imagine a situation where you could scale back racism to the point where, in the context of capitalism, where something like reparations would not be a major issue all the time, and where it wouldn't always be under threat of being rolled back by just those kind of forces.
You make a good point, man. I honestly can't argue with the point that you're making. It would be, you're making the case that to get to a point where there's going to be enough support behind the idea, and not just enough support in the voting base, but in the U.S. Congress by a president as well. We see many things that voters agree on: universal health care, universal background checks, and still no movement. So the landscape is arduous. I mean, the landscape is treacherous, and I like you, I don't see. I don't know. Like you said, you think it might could happen in socialism and not capitalism. I hope that's not the case, because like I said, for this society, for this current economy to be transformed into something else, boy, we're talking about a large meteor hitting the earth.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up kind of rhetoric that's being used to kind of divide up the working class. And sometimes, that rhetoric is given, I guess, has its genesis in Republicans for the most part, but also neoliberals tend to kind of use that same rhetoric to divide up the working class too. Because I've heard Hillary Clinton use that same rhetoric, and it's not like, it's kind of like, it kind of just goes over people's heads, and that rhetoric is using terms like the white working class. And I heard Hillary Clinton use that, and I knew what she was doing.
Not just her.
Not just her, but I heard Hillary Clinton doing that. I can't remember when during her campaign, but she was doing that for a specific purpose. She was trying to ensure that she had a specific voter base. And she was trying to appeal to the voter base that Trump is appealing to. She was just doing it in a different way. But man, you had a lot of good stuff to say. Is this the first time you watched this show, bro?
Yeah, this is like my second time.
Okay. All right. How'd you hear about us?
My mom watches you, and I heard it through her. But I was just flipping through channels the other day, and I just kind of wound up watching it, and I liked it. It was cool, so I watched again.
Well, man, we appreciate you watching the show, and we appreciate you calling as well and having a lot to add, man. You really added to the show, just like Snort did. And we hope the next caller will be able to do the same, man. And thanks for calling, bro, and you have a nice night, okay?
You too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before we get to the next caller, I just want to say something. Jill had something to say in the chat, and she was just talking about not having to invoke Jews to make the case for reparations. And no, you don't have to do that. I totally agree with that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it either.
Yeah, I think that was a reference point specifically, and the fact that you're so like against that reference point says a lot. And you can keep pushing back all you want and telling me to read further, but essentially the first sentence says that the Department of State will soon be making additional payments. It says that. It starts off that way. And the reason is because some of the claims that were made, because yes, there were some Holocaust survivors that filed claims. Guess where some of the claims were made? Or guess what country some of the claims were made against? The U.S., the United States. Because we did have a lot of Nazi sympathizers, and we did have a lot of corporatists who organized with corporatists in Germany to participate in the Holocaust. So some of the claims that Holocaust survivors and Jews made were against the United States. So yeah.
All right, so let's get to the next caller from the 217 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hello?
Hello, how are you doing?
Hey, it's Andrew again from Champaign, Illinois.
Andrew, nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, no, I told you I'd call you again. I'm more prepared this time. I actually wrote down topics of things I wanted to talk about. I've got 5 different ones. Which one do you guys want to talk about?
Well, it's on you.
It's on you, dog.
You probably don't have enough time for all 5.
I know, but this is your time, bro. It's your show, man. You decide.
I think I'll probably fit in 2 if I go. The first one I want to talk about is the whole the BS framing of bureaucracy that you guys were talking about earlier.
Oh, right. With Medicare.
And so what I want to say is I don't think that the average American actually understands what bureaucracy is. I think that they have that term so confused with current capitalism because the two of them are so intertwined. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Whenever you say bureaucracy, it comes off as corruption. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a buzzword.
And so, exactly. And it's really frustrating to me to see that because you see the word bureaucracy and, pretty much anybody is going to, be pissed off just by hearing that word, despite the fact that, it's just a descriptive word that has to do with, government regulation.
Correct. I agree. Yeah, that's why that was the word that stood out to me.
And the ironic part is that the shit that people complain about with bureaucracy has nothing to do with actual bureaucracy. It's actually the lack of bureaucracy. It's the lack of regulation that goes on, and that has been going on since the 80s. It started in the 80s, but mostly under Clinton in the late 90s with the deregulation of pretty much everything.
That's an interesting point to say that not enough bureaucracy. That's an interesting point. And I mean, we didn't specifically categorize it as that, but yeah, we do need the government. If we're gonna, I guess, talk about a specific case about prescription drug costs, we do need more bureaucracy. We need the government to step in and actually lower drug prices.
We're the only fucking. I mean, it's not even that we're. I mean, first of all, we're the only nation that doesn't have a generalized healthcare plan. Mm-hmm. But it's not even just that. We're the only country. Obviously, I'm talking about, you know, first world modernized countries. Yeah. We're also the only one that doesn't have even a government that does the simplest of negotiation with drug costs. Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no standardization at all. And it just, depending on where you live, you get completely gouged.
Profit motive, man.
Yeah. That's what this country is.
Go ahead, man.
I understand. People will always make, you know, the profit argument for literally anything within society, and I'm not gonna, you know, that's not an argument that I'm willing to take up in arms against. I think there's more important things, such as literally not dying. True. Which kind of segues into the next point, which was one of you stated something about talking about Affordable Health Care Act with talking about how basically all it did was added the refusal of sorry, give me a second. It basically, one of the only things that it did, which you're correct in saying, was that it added the policy that you can't deny people based on their previous health conditions.
Right.
And I get where you're coming from because, you know, I'm assuming that you guys are revolutionaries too, same as me, but as, you know, as common sense as that policy is, I mean, and I'm not exaggerating, it literally saved my brother's life. My brother would not be alive right now if it weren't for that policy. So it really did mean a lot to me.
I can definitely understand that. Look, we wanted the ACA to be much more than it was. We wanted the ACA to contain that public option.
It's like, it's silly for me to be arguing here because I agree with you guys. We should be having, you know, Medicare for all. I think all three of us would agree with that, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's almost silly for me to be sitting here, you know, pushing back against that. But
something that we were not for was this Republican attempt to dismantle the ACA. Even though we want something more, we're not for the dismantling of it because if they dismantle it, they have no replacement on top of it.
I think that's the point. Yeah. I think the point is to dismantle it without having a replacement.
I totally understand the point. That's why I don't want to push too much on it. It's just that, like, I do want y'all to realize that there is, you know, it did have a difference on us Americans. I mean,
I'm sure
it was better than what we had. It's not too much better, but
millions of more people were actually able to have health care.
Alive, and I mean that means the fucking world. So.
But we need to do more.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And then just as a disclosure, I don't want to, you know, take up too much time probably over time at this point.
We're running out of time.
But okay, I'll just close on this. Is you guys talked about how the Star Spangled Banner was racist, and I totally agree. And there's a really good Tom Hartman video about it, and I can send you guys a link to it later if you want.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right. Well, take care.
All right. We appreciate you calling in, Andrew.
It's nice talking to you guys, as always.
If Jill is still watching the show, you may not be because we've seen a few people drop off because it's getting kind of late. I'll ask her. Obama? He was the president of what country? He was the president of what country, Will?
Yeah.
He was the president of the United States. Right? Okay. Well, here's some news for you, Joe. I can't remember. It was in 2014.
15, right?
I don't know. Well, that's when the article was written.
Oh, okay.
I think that's when, and so it says in 2000. Yeah. So Obama administration earmarks $12 million for Holocaust survivors. The Obama administration has awarded $12 million for assistance to Holocaust survivors. The allocation from the Department of Health and Human Services to the Jewish Federations of North America to be dispersed over 5 years is a part of an initiative launched in late 2013 by Vice President Joe Biden to address the needs of survivors in the United States, a quarter of whom live below the poverty line. Combined with matching private funds, approximately $2.5 million per year over the 5 years will support $4.1 million in programming annually for organizations that help Holocaust survivors. That sounds a bit like reparations. They're not calling that. And I believe, since Joe Biden was vice president of the United States and Obama was the president of the United States, that would be the United States giving out some cash or some money. I think that's right.
Again, it's not specified as reparations, but that's what it is. I mean, that's what it is. All right. Anyway, like I said, man, reparations always a controversial topic. Always a controversial topic, even among people that agree on it, because again, it can look different ways and whatever. But I do believe that specifically pointing to the fact that Jews did get reparations, not just from Germany, but it looks like from the United States as well.
Looks that way, doesn't
it? It doesn't do any. I mean, it's not offensive. We talk about Marianne Williamson, the Democratic presidential candidate, and when she does talk about reparations for Black people, she highlights the fact that Germany paid reparations to Jews because she thought that was appropriate. So it's just adding some context to like this is the right thing to do. So it shouldn't be looked at as something that is offensive. It's just what happened. It's just making the case that this is what happened and we understand why it happened and it was very appropriate for it to happen. The same thing should be applicable to the United States of America. So it just bolsters the point, really.
Yeah, and there's so many different references you can look up. It's not just the Obama administration. It actually says the U.S. starts paying out French reparations. The U.S. is paying out. That's what it says. It doesn't say facilitate payments for the French. It says starts paying out. And everything you look up, it says that, including the U.S. State Department. So it says the U.S. pays out. So yes, there's coordination with other countries, but the U.S. is giving up some cheese. And it's not just for programs, but it's actually straight cash money. You know what I'm saying?
All right, man.
Let's not forget those who submitted some contributions through the super chat. We appreciate y'all for that.
Yeah, Gear Randon a few times. Now, actually, one of those times that Gear Randon had contributed to the program was late on the program on Tuesday night. It was just after we had ended the program, so it's showing up. It's registering right now. You got us, I guess, 1 minute after we closed the show on Tuesday. But yeah, we appreciate that. Gear Randon is somebody that is very loyal to the program and consistently donates hard-earned money to our cause, man, straight up. So we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Howard B., who we're getting to see many times.
Yeah, man.
We appreciate that. He adds a message, support these guys, please. Appreciate that.
Y'all keeping us afloat for real. Y'all just don't even know, man. Y'all keeping us afloat, man.
And watching the videos on YouTube, that definitely helps as well. We're noticing that there is a lot more attention on the channel. There's many more views for our videos, so that definitely helps. We like to see the subscriber counts go up. So we definitely would appreciate whatever you can do. If you can contribute to us, if you would like to, definitely it's at patreon.com/LTMB. If you can't do that, we totally understand. We understand the economy that we live in since we talk about it all the time. But we do appreciate you watching the live show. We appreciate you watching our videos that we upload to YouTube. If you want to like our stuff, share our stuff, and then if you like to comment as well, get engaged in the chat section on YouTube. We love all that. We try to engage with the people on YouTube. It's somewhat difficult at times because there's a lot of comments, but we try to do that.
Don't want to forget one more.
Yeah, we can do that.
Schultze, 100. Coming in when the shot clock is running out,
right?
Beating the shot clock, and her comment reads, "We need some universal."
Or is it her? Or she? I don't know if it's actually. There's
might be him. I
don't know.
I see a page. I see a photo.
I wonder if that's a. I think that's a.
I can't tell. It's too small.
Like a notable figure, though.
Yeah, it might be.
I don't know.
But it says, we need some universal health care for every one of us here in America. There's no excuse for this ongoing nightmare. Thank you for your contribution, Schultze. Appreciate it.
And another thing, Twitter. All right. Hey, we're looking to build up our Twitter followings. Okay. So, of course, we have a Twitter handle, and it's @LetMadnessBegin. Okay. @LetMadnessBegin. I think @LetTheMadnessBegin was taken when we originally set it up. But it's @LetMadnessBegin. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, please do so. We try to get on there, too, and comment from time to time. It's a little difficult. It's not that we're not well-versed on Twitter. It's just that, boy, this is a lot of posts on Twitter.
Yo, Twitter is a freaking beast,
it's
man.
A beast,
sometimes it could be like very informative and like very quick at giving you like information.
It's like Facebook on
very resourceful,
steroids.
but it's Facebook. Schultze said, "I'm a fucking dude."
All right, man.
I ain't no dude. He's like, I'm a man.
El Chain said,
cock and balls.
He looks like Larry from the Three Stooges.
Yeah, I'm killing over here.
Awesome Mov says best independent lefty show on YouTube.
Yo,
we appreciate it, man.
Yo, we'll take that to heart.
We try to give you our best.
Yeah, we try
to give you our best.
There's a lot of people out there, man, that do good work. So
Yeah.
We
appreciative of the support. I think actually there's some patrons on Patreon.com that I don't believe I have read off before. Actually, we have one new one. Oh no, actually we've got a few new ones from tonight as well. So let me. I believe I didn't mention Paulo Teixeira. Yeah, Paulo Teixeira is a new patron on Patreon.com. So is Richard Walker, Al Harrison, and I'm saying that for you.
Whoa! that looks like some Indian. That looks like Indian, maybe. Shaitan.
Bajashet.
It's like ba. I think that's ba.
The B could be silent.
You're right. It might be.
Hajashet.
Bajashet. Yeah, that's weird.
Either way, by us busting up the name, you know who you are.
Yeah, I know.
You know you are, but we do appreciate it.
I'm gonna have to look that one up for next time so I can pronounce it right.
Yeah. It's probably not going to be the same profile name on YouTube though. But either way, we definitely appreciate all that support, all the financial support. Especially the financial support. Like I said, it's tough goings for a lot of people. We have not done anything with the money for a while. We are building that up. We definitely do want to improve the camera situation that we have going on.
So you can see all our blackheads and stuff and all the lint on our shirt, you know what I'm saying? Just us in our raw state, maybe see ash in our cracks of the skin.
Gotta make sure you put the lotion on prior to the show. But no, I've seen some people say that, we can definitely tell that you're behind a green screen. Yeah, we know.
We know this, but
we know
you would not want the alternative.
No, you would not want the alternative.
We promise.
This is the best outcome for what we have right now, okay? I think it looks serviceable at this point, okay?
You think this looks like an amateur outfit now? No, go look at the videos early 2016, mid 2016.
Yeah, man.
We were shooting with my man's right over here, but my man's iPhone, dog.
Yeah.
We had it in a holster.
Yep.
That's what we were shooting with, an iPhone, which had to remain plugged in with a charger because it would
True, it would die out, man.
Yeah. So.
And then we didn't have a green screen. We didn't have a background. We just had the white wall, which did not play well. Did not show well on the screen.
iPhone equals
potato cam.
Awesome now. iPhone equals potato cam. It was actually had real good like resolution, but
it was very good,
but it was still low budget considering what we were trying to do.
No doubt.
So we upgraded to like. Probably level 3 amateurish with a webcam. The best webcam on the planet. Not really, but
it's well, it's the best webcam.
Best webcam.
It's the best webcam. It's not the best camcorder out there. It's nowhere near camcorder type of quality. So that's what we want to do. That's definitely what we wanted. I think that either we will be able to have an actual background, or the green screen wouldn't be as noticeable with the improved camera. So either way, we don't know which way we're gonna go. It does definitely depend on the camera.
And one thing about the green screen, there was a comment in there from Jenny Barlow. It says y'all setup looks perfect, nothing wrong with it. Yeah, we like the setup. But what happens with the green screen as it pertains to just having a webcam? Sometimes like shirts that don't even have green in them.
Oh, yeah.
Don't even contain any green as a color. Not just green, but contain green.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, will just be kind of distorted.
Right. If I wear, like, I have one of the LTMB shirts that we have. Well, actually, that shirt is not available on the store, I don't believe.
The Broke Broadcasters?
Yeah. But when I wear that shirt, it does not appear to be the red that it's supposed to be. Like, the red that you actually see if you're holding the shirt on camera doesn't come out that way. Not at all. It's supposed to be the actual LTMB red, and it comes out like a maroon or something like that. Also, I have to be careful with the colors, like you're saying about the colors. If I wear a gray, I got my Brooklyn Nets hat.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I like to wear the Brooklyn Nets hat, but
shout out to L Train. Shout out to L Train.
Shout out to L Train. But I can't wear it because it's very pixely. It's very pixely. You can see like right through it. For some reason, grays are like that. So I mean. You have to be careful with what you wear because of this camera.
You never know, you never know what kind of micro stitching they use.
Right.
Even colors that don't traditionally contain green, you don't know what type of micro stitching they use that may contain a little bit of green to form the color that's not necessarily naturally formed with green.
We had a question about what software we use to take calls, and we use the Zoom platform. We used to use the Skype platform, which was great, actually. We loved the Skype platform. It was very easy. It was great. And then they stopped. They stopped supporting the phone number aspect of it or something like that?
They stopped supporting something. I don't know if it was like...
I forgot what it was.
But basically,
we couldn't take calls anymore.
Yeah, basically it was like, well, what are y'all good for then?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we had a number, we were paying for it monthly, and it would work perfectly.
And they took the money. They took the money.
Oh, they took the money, didn't let us know anything.
And they said, hey.
We got that money back, though.
Yeah, getting rid of that aspect of Skype, which is kind of defeats the whole purpose.
But Zoom is not bad. We might go to something else. I don't know. For right now, for our purposes right now, Zoom is good. It's okay. Like I said, the main focus of ours right now is the camera, and it seems like we are well on our way to actually get a camera. I mean, this could be within the next month or two that we can actually get that camera. So looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to that. If you haven't seen the Blue Dot in Texas, he's worth checking out. He's an old country guy who's a feisty progressive. I don't think I've heard of the Blue Dot.
Blue Dot.
The Blue Dot. I did want to give a shout out to one of our viewers. This was maybe about a week ago. Straight Up.
Remember Straight Up. Yeah. Told us to check out some of his political tunes.
Right. Told us to check out his channel. See about a video that he made about Bernie Sanders. It was actually pretty nice, man. It was actually pretty nice. I liked it. It was not amateurish. I don't know what I was expecting, but a lot of times when you talk about political rap,
it's really it's hit or miss.
Yes,
extreme hit or extreme miss.
But usually. Straight Up, he actually had some. I liked it. I really did like it. It's straight. I put it in the chat if y'all want to look him up.
Yeah.
But it's actually a pretty good song, man. I wouldn't have guessed that's how you spell the name, but it's at Straight Up. If you want to look at his channel, there's a video up there. It's really good. What else we got? All right, so today's Thursday, last day of Black History Month, last day of the month. So next week we'll be back. What is that? That's March 4th. Is that right? March 4th, I believe. Yeah, I think it's March 4th.
Yep. No. 5th.
Is it 5th?
No. Yeah, it's 4th. No. It's 5th. It's 5th.
It's
5th. It's 5th. It's 5th.
It's the 5th.
Yeah, it's 5th.
Oh yeah, it's March 5th. Oh, it's 5 days. That's right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So,
All right,
5 days.
so March 5th. I don't know what's going on this weekend.
No, me neither.
I don't know what's going on this weekend.
Totally lost, bro. Totally lost.
As we always say, there's always something that happens on Friday.
That pops off.
That pops
off on Friday.
Requires immediate attention, but we got to wait till Tuesday to possibly talk about it. So something's going to happen, and, maybe we'll have something to say on Twitter about it or whatever. But we're going to clip some of this video to put on YouTube. Also, we have, I think, a couple clips from the last show, too, that we haven't uploaded yet. So this will all be done tomorrow and on Saturday as well. So just look out for that. And if you can watch it, if you can give it a thumbs up, if you can share it for us, we would be extremely grateful. And also click that bell. If you have not clicked the bell yet, please do so that you can be alerted when we do drop new content and we do go live. We want this to be a big community of people so that, look, the ultimate goal is so that we can actually do this more than 2 days a week. And we can add more people onto like the whole production of this so that we can actually dish out a little bit of the responsibility so that we're not actually responsible for looking at the chat even. Somebody can do that for us. Look at the chat, tell us, yo, all right, this user said this is relevant to what you're talking about. They can actually put up the graphics and the videos and all of that, because that whole process is, a little difficult while you're trying to
provide commentary.
Straight up. So anyway, we have big plans, and we're glad that you are, along the way with us, and you enjoy what we do. So with that, Schultze said, I missed the show. So, damn, you missed the show, and you still contributed
to the show, and you called in?
That's what's up, Schultze.
Yeah, I know.
Schultze didn't call in.
No, that's right. No, that was Snort, my bad.
Yeah,
but yeah, how long? Dang, he must have came in at the tail end.
Yeah, Tuesday does seem far away, Jenna. It does seem far away, but we'll be reinvigorated. We'll have some energy. I'm not sure what will be popping off then. I'm not sure what our topics will be, because there's nothing lingering. There's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing we have left over. Because sometimes we have some, left over to talk about, or we know there's something waiting that we know we'll have to talk about because we know something's coming. But yeah.
I believe what's in the news right now is the Green New Deal. How the Senate's going to vote on that. Also, the House just passed the gun control bill about the universal background checks. But of course, the Senate is not going to do that because that's Republican controlled. And even if they did, there's a Republican president who has already said that he's not in the business of supporting universal background checks. So,
and he's going to do some stump speech when he does,
Of course.
When he doesn't sign, he's going to do some stump speech.
Now, see, you see when we're about to get off, L Train always has to do something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he talk
shit about Brooklyn? He talked shit about Brooklyn Nets, didn't he?
L Train always got something to say, man.
Oh,
yeah,
true that.
I
saw that. I think that's a recycle. I think that's a recycle comment too. He made sure you want to see that.
No. I want to look at something because L Train supports New England sports.
So Boston.
Boston been fucking up.
Yo, they've been looking like trash lately. Like
Boston,
they on a 4 or 5 game skid.
Their last 10 games, they're 4-6. They've lost 4 straight. Now Brooklyn, they don't have the same record. They are 5.5 games back of Boston right now. So yeah, Boston still has a lead on them, but Boston's in 5th place in the standings, and Brooklyn's in 6th place. So
Boston was supposed to be. Was supposed to be in first place.
They were supposed to be in first place. And how many games out of first place are they? 11.
So wait, Indiana.
10.5?
Indiana lost their star player.
Ooh.
And they're still in second place.
Ooh.
They're still 3 places above Boston. Yeah, go Raptors. Yeah, like a lot of ESPN analysts have said since the beginning that Toronto is the strongest team in the East. And I think it was Max Kellerman and both Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith said that Kawhi Leonard was the MVP. They said this, it was kind of funny, right? They said this before. Of course they said this before they played Boston. Because I think they did that as a build-up. They know it's a business.
Hell yeah.
Kawhi Leonard is the MVP. And of course, Toronto played Boston. And
got shellacked.
And it kind of proved their analysis to be right. So,
L Train said I blame Robert Kraft.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
That's a damn good answer right there. But I still don't know about Toronto though.
Kraft got a hand job, and then Boston's like just.
Milwaukee is strong too. Milwaukee is strong. They got the best record in the whole
They got the
league
the best record in the whole league, but not sure if they're built for the playoffs though. It just depends on.
I don't know, man. They're not experienced. I know that.
All right.
Toronto definitely is. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Not that many games left in the regular season, so we'll see.
And yeah, Philly's up there too.
Philly's gonna be a tough out with that starting lineup they got now, man. Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler. That's gonna be a tough
Embiid, Simmons.
Mm-hmm. But look, Brooklyn is no longer a laughingstock of the league. Brooklyn actually has some serious talent now. My man D-Lo, what? All-star? Okay. We got some talent. We're going to get somebody good in free agency, too. That's just me. Just hoping.
Hoping, yeah, that's more of a hope.
But anyway.
H.A. Goodman title.
I'm saying. Imminent
draft pick.
Kevin Durant is imminent to sign with the Brooklyn Nets. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. We'll be back in 5 days. All right, so
5 whole days.
Watch some LTMB content if you can. Like the content, share the content, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. All right, so everybody take care. We'll see you on Tuesday. Peace out.